We were about to get back into the action, but we were able to take a look at some of our players here on the floor. So let's check in and see what they had to say.
Good job.
Yay!
How's it going on your end?
It's good.
Nice work. Thank you. Yeah, nice work. Thank you. I'll take that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, I can tell you that he had some really nice things to say there. That was Wolf Glick, who was one of the competitors that was able to make it forward to the top 256 coming through from Heat 1. We are back, everybody, with day number 1 of our coverage of the TFT Vegas Open, and I'm so excited to be back here on the desk with all of you. And for the first time, we've got Casanova here. We've also got Bryce here coming through from K3 Soju's co-stream.
Yeah, Soju barely made it. It was down to the wire. We engaged in some cookery that looked more like milk at the summit than, you know, Michelin star chefing, but he did get through, and it's just a survive and advance situation, so we're chilling.
With all the really great food in Vegas, I think he maybe shouldn't be cooking as much. Instead, go out and pick one of the great options that he has available to him. But I don't know, as I was walking around, the energy in the room has been so amazing, and I saw so many players, like, they get the win to get into the next round and just big pop-offs. The big one I saw was Sox. He needed a first place. He couldn't get anything else, and he made it happen at the very end to get his spot in the next round.
That's actually crazy. It was interesting because the lobby that we were casting here on the main stage was kind of all the favorites dominating, right? But when we saw a lot of the scores rotating through, we were seeing a lot of favorites finishing 7th in their first game, finishing 8th in their first game. And you start to realize, hey, it's not all going to go according to plan.
No, I mean, especially as the tournament goes on, we're just going to see some of the tournament favorites going to fall. We haven't seen any major favorites fall yet, to my knowledge. I did see that Bobe was actually on the cusp, but I didn't see what happened at the end of that lobby, so maybe that's our first big retirement.
Rain Implosion as well.
Oh, is Rain out?
After 2 games was in 8th in the lobby. So,
oh, no.
So I think it would be very unlikely. I didn't see the scores after the 3rd game, but very unlikely. I think that they
I'd walked past and her match history was up, and I saw 2 7s. I don't know if it was, I think it was her match history that was up, so that checks out with what I saw as I was walking around. And with 2 7s, I actually don't know if you can even claw back into that top 4.
I think you would have to, everything would kind of have to go exactly how you would want it, but you know, it's tough, right? The reality is, especially if you're playing some of these more risky lines and stuff, things can go really, really crazy. We saw some highlights from DQA where he was about to go like the biggest 7th, biggest 8th, and he had last stand. Last stand came back from 1 HP. Able to win out the whole lobby and get a first, right?
Let's go, Daniel.
Yeah, we actually saw a couple other players end up in spots similar. I actually saw ISG Michael from Latam playing a similar line. He ended up stuck with that last stand and barely clawed into top 4 because in his lobby, that was the Stellarman he 9 true damage lobby.
Yeah.
So you're not going to beat that.
You're not going to beat that.
So
You're playing for second.
You're stuck on that last stand just like, when am I dying? That is the problem at that point.
It's been so exciting walking around on the floor, too, because as you talk about some of the big player pop-offs that we've been seeing, there's also a bunch of fans that are gathering behind their favorite streamers, their favorite players, and just being able to cheer them on for when they have those high highs or they do have those low lows. So that's been really exciting to check in on, too.
Absolutely. I'm kind of curious what you all have been seeing in some of your games, because we had been seeing much more like forecast play. It felt like in the lobbies that we were watching, not as many people going for fast 9. It was much more around stabilizing on 8 before going to 9, and maybe that's the capped out board that wins. But it's actually a pretty far cry from what I felt like I was seeing last patch.
So the patch definitely shifted. I also think it's worth noting that there's going to be lobby-dependent metas as well, because part of this is if you're in a lobby where there's quite a bit of skill disparity, it becomes easier to then be a fast 9-oriented player to get to greed out and cap out your board for that win. It becomes much more challenging if the lobby is more evenly distributed in terms of power level of players.
I definitely want to talk about the meta a little bit more, but we did get a chance to check in with some of our players that are on the floor, so let's go ahead and see what they have to say. I am here with one of my dear friends and TFT competitors. It is Wolf Glick. You are just playing some very high-intensity TFT games. I know you've been competing, but what does it feel like to be here to compete at TFT?
I mean, it's a really cool experience. Just the whole atmosphere and like the crowd and everything, it makes it feel so much more intense than playing at home, which is the only place I've ever played TFT before. So yeah, you know, I didn't really have many expectations going in, so I thought, oh, I probably won't be nervous, but I sat down and, you know, with the atmosphere and everything, I was like, oh, I'm starting to shake a little bit. So it's really intense, but in a good way. It's really fun.
I know the live environment has been so fun to play in, and you're no stranger to that, especially competing in Pokemon, but what does it feel knowing that you made top 256?
I'm really surprised, but I'm also really happy. I definitely didn't come in thinking that I would be doing very well, especially when I saw like the people in my lobby. So yeah, the last game was like a little bit tricky. I went 6th. You know, I was hoping to keep up my other good performances, but making to the next round I think is better than I could have hoped for, and I'm really glad to have some more games to play.
I think this is what we would call the world champ difference.
Let's hope that it holds up. Let's hope I haven't burned through all of it in 3 rounds already.
Well, best of luck, Wolf, and congratulations.
What's going on? I'm here with Setsuko, who took me and so many people here in the crowd on a roller coaster of emotions. You were on the brink of elimination going to that 3rd game, and it looked actually a little scary. You were 23 HP, and you kind of had this huge comeback. Can you talk a little bit about how the game went?
I mean, I think on 4-1, I was like actually going 8th a lot of the time. But then, I don't know, like I stabilized around Kaylin too. Like I think Kaylin's like really underrated right now. Like she's actually like really strong if you like make a good front line with her. And I think Crash Test Dummies also bailed me out a bit because it made my first augment, stationary augment, also jump forwards. So it allowed me to use my Zeeks like actually in the back and not grief my positioning. But yeah, like a lot of things went right on stage 4 for me to streak, and then I just snowballed off that, yeah.
Obviously, you're playing on land for the first time that we've ever seen you compete in TFT. Can you talk a little bit about what it feels like to actually be here and competing alongside your competitors?
I mean, it feels like kind of the same as like online. I mean, like I just hear during the game like people behind me just like can't focus. But like other than that, I mean, it's like kind of the same. I just like during the game I'm just like locked in. I can't really I'm not really nervous or anything. Like it's like kind of the same. I mean, but it feels nice just seeing everyone though. It's like yeah, pretty nice.
It's obviously a tournament of high variance, right? That's the nature of TFT, low sample size. But if you honestly give me a number, what are your chances of making it to the top 8 in this tournament?
I mean, as of now, probably like I don't know, like 10% or like 15% the top 8. I mean, I think I like kind of like during those 3 games I kind of like learned the patch a little bit. Like it sounds weird, but like I'm like learning as I play because I haven't really had many games on the patch. So now that I survived like the first 3 games, I feel like it only gets better from here. Like it's like easier and easier, yeah.
All right, thank you so much, Setsuko. We have so many people who are really rooting for you. You are obviously one of North America's best talents, so good luck to you on the rest of the tournament. That's going to do it for us. Back to you.
We're at the TFT Las Vegas Open this morning. We're here with Ariana, or in this case, Nico, for today. How are you enjoying the event? Have you seen the venue? How are you enjoying it all?
I've seen everything, and everything looks so cool. I feel the energy and excitement from the crowd, and I'm so excited to see all of our champions go and challenge each other today to see who'll win the prize. Woo!
So you did not come today as yourself. You came as Nico. Why this champion specifically?
So I'm a cosplayer, and just like Nico, she's a shapeshifter. I thought it was perfect. And just like Nico, I'm also a KDA super fan, and Ari is my bias.
We love the cosplay. Thank you so much, and I hope you enjoy today.
Thank you.
That is so relatable because Ari is also my bias. So it's so great though to see all of these cosplayers, all of these incredible players come together in one place. And I want to go back and revisit that conversation because I think Setsuko really touched on this, and that's where the meta is right now. We were kind of teasing it a little bit in terms of how this patch is really navigated through this tournament, but it does seem like Forecast right now doing pretty well.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, this is something you kind of touched on. It depends on your lobby, like how you're going to have to actually play it out. And I think we're going to see that evolving throughout the weekend as well. Something that I saw a lot from some of these top players in the first rounds was that they're just trying to keep healthy. They're trying to play powerful boards. They're going to be leveling aggressively. And they're just basically trying to make sure I'm going to get top 4s, right? Because they feel that they can kind of outplay their competition in the later stages where it gets really complex around playing around all these different headliners, all these different decision trees. And I think that's a really smart way to play it because all you have to do is guarantee yourself top 4 to move on to the next stage. But once you start getting in harder and harder and harder lobbies, you can't just play as conservative.
And as you get into the later rounds, we're going to start rewarding top 2 out of 8 instead of top 4 out of 8. So you can play a really conservative game plan on day 1, but day 2, you really need to insert more risk. Otherwise, you can find yourself in good placements, but not actually in the top 2 and going home.
Yeah, it's a really great point. And one of the big things is every time we get to tournament play, the meta does start to skew towards tempo because people are, they want to play for that top 4. They don't want to play for the big cap out necessarily. And I think with the nerves of being in this environment, a lot of players will start to panic roll quicker, and they're going to have to adapt when we get to that top 2. And the players who are still able to play fast 9 in these lobbies are going to have a much better time.
Yeah, it's just going to be so interesting, right? Because you have to be such a complete player, I feel like, to be able to win in a field of 512 players. It's kind of ridiculous. Like, you can't just be someone who can play aggressive and farm top 4s that might get you to day 2, but then you have to get top 2 to actually get into the final lobby. And in the final lobby, you have to be getting firsts, right? Like, that's the only way you can become the TVO champion is by getting the check and then getting a first place. You have to know how to play all these different lines, more conservative lines to advance yourself through the tournament, but then these really high cap boards to actually take it all home.
Yeah, and we don't know yet exactly how the meta is going to shake out, right? Setsuko was mentioning he thinks Caitlyn is underrated. If you pull 15 of the top players in this field, you're going to get ranging opinions from she's underrated to she's the best 4-cost backline carry to she's garbage and I'm never putting on my board. That stuff's going to shake out a little bit over the course of the weekend, but you're also going to have people, like you said, stylistic flexibility is going to become king. You need to be able to play around some of these 3-cost reroll outs because you're going to get in spots for them. You're going to need to play around 4 costs, especially when you're low rolling. You need to stabilize and get the best pace that you can. And then when you're in the spot to go level 9, you have to be able to build winning boards and get those first where they come.
Yeah, I absolutely love it because earlier I was just hanging out at the co-stream with you, Dan, and Soju, and you guys were talking meta, and I was sitting there like, I pulled a bunch of players. This is not what I heard from everyone else. This is very different from what I was hearing from a lot of. As things come up and as we see some of these players that kind of send me things, I can reveal a little bit more of that because I don't want to like leak everybody's tech as we go through. But it's just really unique, as you pointed out, that so many players have so many different reads. The big one was people talk about Kane and how different that is from other people's 5-cost meta read. And we saw Dish Soap pull off some really great games with Kane.
Yeah, actually, a lot of people in these lobbies were playing Kane. It was more of a focus, at level 9 around Kane and Kiana than it was around Ziggs, as we were seeing, last patch, get 9, get Ziggs, try to play around Jazz. That's kind of what the name of the game was. But people are capping in a lot of different ways. And the other thing I would say is that I think people kind of oversimplify the discussions around meta by talking about, okay, people have different reads, but then you're going to find the right read and everyone should play that. And I don't actually think that's correct. I think that you can have all these people with different reads that can all be, equally correct because there's so much variance in how you have to play the game based on the things that you can't control in the game, right? I can't control what augments I'm given. I can't control what portal it's going to be. I can't control the tempo of the lobby. And so the correct decision changes completely based on all of these other things. And that's where I think you really see these special players be able to shine because they can adapt to all these different circumstances.
And you especially see it because we actually have a pretty balanced patch when it comes to just the stats. I know a lot of the players don't get a look at the stats right now, but when we look at Tactics Tools, we see things like most augments in Masters Plus. There's nothing better than a 4.0 in Masters Plus right now. So the augment gaps of some of these is not as massive, and it's allowing a lot of other strategies to shine that utilize these augments even better.
I think that's why we always see the analysis of where are these study groups going, what have they decided is going to be the best in the meta right now. But also, I think that does leave some room for some of those players that are sneaking into this tournament that might be a little bit more unknown when it comes down to how they're going to perform at this tournament. But we are going to be taking a short break because we have some of those players that are going to be coming up shortly on our stage, but we got to make sure that they are ready to go. So don't go anywhere, everyone. This is day number 1 of the TFT Vegas Open.
Oh, the NA scene is like really strong. We won Worlds 2 sets ago, I think. Probably the only, actually I don't know if Valorant won, but I know NA never won League Worlds. So NA is actually really strong in TFT. I'm not sure why though, but I think it's because we have a really strong community, and so I feel like the top regions are like China and like NA. So NA always does really well every Worlds. So yeah, it makes me feel good to be part of a strong region, and I think we're only getting stronger. Like when I started in set 1, set 2, set 3, when I started competing in set 3, you can tell the players were like not that good. But then nowadays, like maybe like back then there was like 10 players that are known. Now there's like 50 to 100 players that are like all like really, really good. So it's just a sign that the game is growing. So.
Well, now that Panda and Makes aren't on the desk anymore, I think we can all talk about our NA bias right now. NA is certainly the strongest region we've got here in TFT, yeah?
See, I don't like the framing because I think NA is the strongest region, but not because I'm biased. It's because I have eyes.
Yeah, exactly.
So, look,
Correct.
the scoreboard speaks for itself. I think the two best regions in the world are pretty clearly China and NA, and I think who's stronger depends a lot on meta state, actually. I think NA is stronger in certain environments and CN's better in others, and just who happens to shake out that day. If EU wants to catch up, they got a lot of work to do, but maybe they start with a Vegas title. We'll see.
Yeah, I mean, the stats are there for us, right? The AVP at Worlds
numbers
is
don't
China,
lie.
They don't lie.
No.
Look, I'll give it to Wet Jungler. He did grab second place. Nobody was beating title. Title was way too good.
Hey, I was just happy to have EU get someone back in the top 8 again.
Hey,
that was nice.
That's pretty nice. That's pretty nice. Give him some representation, But Wei Jin still grabbing that third, like NA still having a really good spot. And as we went down that list, right, World Championship looked really good for NA.
I mean, I'm just sitting back and enjoying the fact that it's even an argument that NA can be the best region.
That's how I feel
I've suffered for so
I've been around
long.
esports for I've been working esports for a little bit over a decade, and being in the game where NA is the best, or at least arguably the best, man, that feels good.
I don't know if you watch much League of Legends.
Oh, I watch a lot of League of Legends.
Too much, I've watched.
That's a little rough over
They
there.
break my heart every year.
Robin not even knowing that NA is defending champions in Valorant. Come on, Robin. It's our title. We gotta take it where we can get it, man.
He's too old to know what Valorant is.
Yeah,
that's true. That's a good
It's more of a
point.
Zoomer game, yeah.
Oh my god.
Oh my goodness. But you know what? He does bring up like so many good points, like especially at the beginning of the day, to talk about the fact that we're in a live environment right now. I mean, Bryce, what has it been for you just being on the K3 Soju stream? Like, how have you seen kind of the fans interacting with him?
It's crazy. I mean, you got all the co-stream setups right along the wall, and you have probably 100 people that are just hanging out along the rope watching, and all the lobbies are potted with each other. So it's just such a cool environment. It feels like somewhere like almost like an open bracket COD event or a fighting game community event. Just feels so interconnected with the fans really being part of the magic, and it just, I don't know, it feels very TFT to me. It's very emblematic of our community.
I mean, it's super fun, right? These kind of events really kind of remind me of a lot of like the MLGs that I used to do in the best ways, right? Because I had such a history of coming up through the MLGs and IEMs and all these events where it is like so interconnected. Pros are walking around, fans are walking around. You're getting to chat and meet with a lot of these people. That's so fun. There's cool community events that are going on. They had a pre-party last night where you were actually casting a lot of show matches with Fordan that were really cool. With all kinds of DSG people were in there. Mortog was in there. We had all kinds of different people from the scene playing.
Like, we've joked about it, but it really does feel like TFT Con. Like, it feels like all the personalities from TFT have come out of the woodwork. We've got all these like really cool things in the hall of the different like music from the set being all mixed together. We've got the prize walls, we've got cosplayers. It does feel like a convention alongside the tournament. That's just been such an immaculate vibe.
I mean, it's really fun for me too, even, having spent less time in the TFT scene, actually just seeing all these people I recognize from other scenes, right? Because I used to get StarCraft, there's StarCraft pros here, there's like former WoW people that I used to play with.
Necra interviewing Wolfie, this is a Pokemon crossover when it comes to
exactly.
TFT.
There's all kinds of people from the League scene as well.
St. Vicious,
Man the myth.
Yeah, exactly. Scar's here playing, so their Stunt is playing as well, so there's all kinds of former LCS pros. And I do think that's one of the really cool things about TFT is that it feels like kind of like a melting pot of all these other games and all these different things, because there's like such a crossover of interests. People who come from like card game backgrounds. We got people from Hearthstone, like Dog, and we got people who come from like really in-depth strategy games. We got people who just clicked on it because it was in the League client and it sounded like fun. We have people coming from like other auto battlers, and there's just so many different people that are kind of coming into the scene and really enjoying it.
Yeah, like Alan ZQ, Legends of Runeterra world champion, showing up. I actually caught up with him earlier. He was saying, "Oh, this feels like I'm playing a poker event like WC poker.
Yes.
So it's been very, very awesome to catch up with all these other players.
Yeah, it's been cool too because there really are a lot of transferable skills between all of these different games, whether we've talked about maybe just the land buff of having the experience of playing in front of a live crowd already, or even just the risk assessment management that you need to have in order to actually compete in some of these other strategy games.
Exactly, and the ability to complain. That's
Oh
transferable
my
across
gosh.
all video games,
Yes.
you know?
Yeah, and
People at the top, they can make some
I think
excuses.
it was Ray on the co-stream earlier who was saying that the underrated part of this event is that if you get griefed in-game, Mortdog is physically present. So go and find him. It is an opportunity to yap IRL. You can't miss that.
That's got to be the big thing, though, is we got all these people from all kinds of games, and yet somehow we've managed to have the best yappers in all of esports all in one place.
I'm just waiting for if anyone's gonna have any of the stage pop-offs. You know,
gotta
jump
see it.
up, like trash talk. You steal someone's unit or item on a carousel, you can just point across.
Saint's gonna land a smite and he's gonna be like, I did that.
Oh, I did see a big pop-off I was talking about Socks earlier, but there was like 20 people gathered around him for that final game.
Yeah, that's so cool.
And when it happened, he jumped up out of his seat and like 10 people jumped up around him, were patting him on the shoulders, like congratulating him for it. So it was definitely like, there are the pop-offs happening throughout the room. We'll see if we get one on the main stage at some point here.
Well, I think what's awesome too is that we talk often about the fact that TFT is literally a team fight where you do have study groups, you have people that are in your building groups that really help you to try to come up with those strategies, and they get to be here in real time to support you.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I do think, you know, these study groups, as they're kind of called in here, or scrim groups, or whatever you want to call them, it's such an important part of an esport developing and of actually really pushing the boundaries, because I'm such a firm believer in that you are only as good as your competition. You know, if you're not practicing against the best, it's very difficult to find out what truly is working and isn't working, because if you're playing against someone, even if you're winning every game, you may be learning the wrong habits, the wrong strategies if you're not playing against people who know how to punish that, right? So it's so important to, you know, create these study groups, create these scrim groups that have a diverse set of play styles, you know, people who are really thinking about the game, always trying to push the envelope, try new things, so you can really figure out what your best play style is.
In TFT, they're kind of different, because what happens is there are study groups that are the people who that's your Discord server or your group chat, and you're just constantly sharing information, talking about the game. What do you think about this unit, this transition, whatever? What did you do in this spot? And then when scrim time comes, they intermix, they compete against each other, and they find out. I think to return to our NA versus the world conversation, actually a big part of the reason why NA is so strong is because we get together as a region and share information with another. It's not a situation where there's a lot of tech hoarding happening. We really all make each other better throughout the course of the set. So then we get to the end, and whoever happens to be alive during the World Championship has usually been well prepared by all the best players on the server. Not the case in EU.
And I think it's so interesting, because I've seen this transition. I've been around esports for a long time, and I've seen this kind of like cycle where a lot of times when a game is more in its infancy for esports, people are really trying to hold all their strategies and hoard all their strategies. They don't want to share information. They want to keep it all to themselves because they see that as the greatest advantage. But I've always really seen it as, if you truly believe that you are the best and you can learn faster, you should get more from being able to share these strategies and being able to challenge each other, play against the best competition. Sure, you're kind of opening your book, so to speak, and showing them what you've got, but they're doing the same to you. And if you believe that you're the better player, you should be able to gain more from that, learn more from that. And it really does push the level of competition, you know, not only within, you know, a small group, but as you're saying, across the whole region.
And it evolves so much over the course of the set. So really the only time there's a lot of value to hiding tech, if you will, is if you're right before a big tournament. Regionals is when you kind of see almost the groups go back to their corners. They've been sharing throughout the set and helping each other get better. And it's like, okay, now I want to have whatever edge I can get going into this one event. And then as soon as it's over, what's so cool is all of NA bands together. Everyone gets in a group chat. All the people who, if you were the best on this line, you didn't make worlds, you just help that person learn, help the people learn that line. It's just such a cool thing to see around an esport. It's unique. I've been around esports for a while too, and I haven't seen anything quite like this.
Yeah, we saw so much of that going into the Worlds. All the NA players prepping together, but also, as you said, people who are really good on specific lines, just coming and helping that group get ready. But, you know, we've talked so much about people sharing tech, and you were saying, just before a big event, sometimes people will hurt it. This event is one that I've seen some of the most like tech hoarding. We've seen some people post, but it's kind of been few and far between, and I think it's because the proximity to the patch, right? The patch was just on Wednesday.
I mean, it's not even just the proximity to the patch, but also you're fighting against everybody else that's here for $100,000 for that first place prize. That's a pretty penny.
And I mean, there's 300K in total prizing, so there's a lot of money to be made. If you make it to day 2, you're in the money. You're already making something for your trip. So definitely very, very competitive. And I think, a lot of these players playing for pride, showing that they want to be able to compete. A lot of the people, especially if you're lesser known, you're not going to come in and get that respect right away. You kind of have to earn it. You have to be able to show that you can take down some of these big names. So I'm sure that we're going to have some deep runs from players that we've never heard of.
It's the nature of the beast. It's a really high variance format. You got 500 people involved, so there's going to be some names going on. One of the big questions that we will find out at the end, because we've never run an event like this before, is how much can we expect the best players? How much does the cream rise to the top at the end of the day, right? When you talk about this Final 8 lobby, are we expecting it to be relatively unknowns? Are there one big name, 2 big names, 3 big names, right? TFT has so much opportunity for skill expression if we're going to contrast it with something like poker, where maybe the best players really can just throw out that advantage. And this, an event like this is maybe a chance to wrap up once and for all the debate over how skill expressive is TFT and how much luck is involved.
Well, especially in set 10. I feel like this is one of the sets where we've seen the most skill expression when it comes down to where some of those boards can get high caps.
Absolutely, and I mean, I've always kind of been a believer in games like this, that people overstate the variance and overstate the kind of, luck element of it. I do think that luck comes into it, but I think luck comes into it when you are similarly skilled to your opponent, right? But there are different echelons to this, and you really can see it played out over the consistency in the course of a number of games that these people are always able to find lines. And when you watch someone's point of view, and you see how difficult the decisions are and how bad some of the beats they're getting, and they're still able to figure out a top 4, I'm always more impressed watching a player scrape out a top 4 from what seemed impossible to me than I am watching a high-rolled first place.
Yeah, well, we're going to get into game number 1 of Heat 2 here for our round of 5-12. And it looks like we're going to be starting out with 3 champions here for our auction for this first game.
The immediate tech that I always see with the 3 champions is if you can find an Olaf early on and make 10 gold on 1-3, you can get that early econ adjustment. We've seen a lot of
Olaf, Lilia, Tom Kench, I think all do it.
I think all 3 of them. Yep.
Lilia's it's crit dependent. It's not.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Okay, so
you can grief that.
Olaf or 2K?
I guess I'm just lucky. The game is not skilled, because anytime I've had Lilia on this, I'm like, Lilia can do it.
Yeah, it does about 4 times out of 5.
All right, well, I guess I just have to not play any more games with Lilia. It's worked about 4 times for me.
I like Tom Kench. I like Tom Kench. I like the bruiser start. That's always where I feel like I've started my games.
Speaking of starts to like, we have the best backline chosen in the game. I think slight preference for the big
over
shot.
Annie.
Yeah,
I think so now.
Annie's way more item hungry. So if you have the super fan start, you get the item, you get the components, or if it's one of those like the full item draw, full item portal, or where you get the 2 components portal, then you can really make Annie sing. But Corky's going to be more consistent.
I'm going to be so interested to see if at all throughout this tournament we do get the 6-8-bit cash out. We were talking about this. It's actually achievable now on this patch. It is very high roll. You have to get an early Corky 3. You have to be able to have things go your way, but it's a craftable spat, and it is one of those things that literally guarantees you the win, right? You get so much from it.
It's just very weird, right? Because you have to go for the Corky 3, so you have to start with this. It has to start with 8-bit Corky, and then you have to be given
just
enough Corkies where you're just like, yeah, I guess I'll go Corky 3, because you don't want to commit to this line.
We are playing a lot of games at this weekend.
Yeah,
surely someone has the courage.
Someone do it.
Somewhere, yeah. Maybe if they're in a really rough spot. Maybe
if you get a couple of bot 4s, right, you're going to have to take some risks, especially when we're getting further and further into the tournament.
Winning the tournament is going to be very challenging, but you can become a legend by winning 1 game on an 8-bit cash out, I'm just saying.
Oh, absolutely.
We got a legendary 3-star against, Setsuko or whoever and take them down.
Oh my gosh, yeah, that's how you win one of the bounties that we saw at the pre-party there, when you get a board like that. But I really like the place that 8-bit is in right now, especially looking at Caitlyn as kind of one of those board costs. I know we were talking about that a little bit when we got into the game, but I feel like Caitlyn's in a much better spot now.
What is this start?
I was about to say, we got Wet Jungler, 2nd place at World Championship, and with these boards, it makes sense, right? We got the Heartsteel Cassante already in. He also found the Corky, but he found 3 Corkies.
He really wanted Bo here to be able to go for red buff and have just the generically insane start. So it's
low rolling,
Is this even a high roll?
Yes.
My God.
Yes, it is.
Yes. 3 Corky 2s that we've seen so far. 2 of them are the headliners. This is just a really, really good start for Wet Jungler. Now, one of the interesting things meta-wise is these are items that we saw slammed all the time last patch because it was just everyone trying to fast 9. This patch we talked about, there's a lot more play happening on 8, and these items are not great on 8. These are items that you really do need to get to level 9 to make them shine.
That's the big thing with the red buff if he had found it, because it would have been a lot better on level 8. You can play Ezreal with those two items. There's actually quite a few. I'm trying to like remember all of the carries that you can play with Shogun red buff, but it's like almost all of them. Yeah, Karthus, Ezreal, Caitlyn could run it. It would be fine. Yeah.
I don't really like Shogun on Caitlyn though, because I feel like you lose so much because the cast time is so slow.
Yeah, full AD is the best.
But no, I mean, I think there's a lot of flexible lines. We're seeing a lot more of actually the 4-cost melee carries as well. We saw red buff used by a lot of different people, even on like Viegos and Zeds to bridge the gap to get towards level 9, things like that. So I do think it's super flexible, but slamming items is absolutely the name of the game, it feels like, in this set, right? You have to kind of, I feel like, especially with the headliner mechanic, the boards are kind of just stronger on average than they would be in a set without that. You know, you're taking more damage. You have to kind of be able to maintain some level of power, it feels like.
For sure, although I do think this is a patch where a lot of the skill expression is going to be management of item economy. And for example, this Titan Slam that Gear has is an item that most players are not actually going to be willing to slam because it's an item that doesn't really perform that well on any unit at any point in time in the game.
I hate it.
There are units, yeah, there are units that can sort of use it, but I hate it too. I would slam Sunfire and that's why every time. There's no way I'm slamming a Titan. I would much rather Bow is a better item to play around. I would want the Sunfire. It's better tempo. It's better. It just makes more sense.
I mean, it'll be interesting to see how it develops over the couple days, but at least in all the games that I've watched so far, no one is not slamming an item on the first stage. Like, everyone is slamming items, it feels like, every single game because people are trying to keep their health up, trying to stay aggressive. I feel like Titans, you know, yes, it does kind of, maybe it's not ideal, but it kind of feels like a lot of times it's locking you into like a melee carry style.
I almost don't like it for the like conserving HP part of it because I feel like it's such like a weak item early on as well. And then as you start to scale in the game, like it doesn't even stack to 25 in half the fights. It actually like you don't even get the value out of this item. It's why Gargantuan's so terrible because there's like no world you're getting to 40 stacks. And then the times you do, sure, yeah, you would probably win the fight, but it's not consistent.
I would slam the Sunfire, then the Nashers, then the Titans. I would not have slammed that. Joining Chaos here, the pride of SEA. This is definitely one of the tournament favorites coming in. He's just been such a consistent tournament player for his entire career. Because he's from SEA, it's not a region that gets the love, but this is a player to look out for within that region, even if SEA overall hasn't performed as well as some of the tier 1 regions.
So Chaos is like SEA, but he's also like a global player because he's been around since the very beginning, and he was playing on North America. He was constantly practicing with North American players, and he's just been so solid for the entire history of the game.
Well, I think that's one of the interesting things about TFT is it's just straight up not very ping reliant, right? Like, you can play on other servers in other regions without it being that big of a detriment. Yeah, it's not ideal, but you know, you can play to, like, when I was in Korea, I was playing on NA, you can play with 150 ping, it's just fine.
Yep.
You can also play on your phone.
Yep.
Unless you fat
Tablet,
finger something, in which case maybe it's a skill issue.
No, it sounds like a Mortog issue to me now.
Yeah, maybe it is just a Mortog issue.
Yeah, when in doubt, just blame someone else.
Oh, we've got a carousel now.
We do, and looking at the item slams, 3 people, or 4 people actually, 2 full item slams. So this is, you know, to your point, Azale, that it's just a lot of tempo slamming happening.
And I mean, I feel like when you're slamming an IE, you're already pretty much committing to an AD line. You're not really going to be going to AP at all. You know, so I do feel like a lot of people are kind of locking themselves into like a similar playstyle. And it does feel like Wet Jungler, I think with the Shogun Nashers, you're a little bit more flexible. You can play a little bit kind of different ways, but some of these other people are already pretty locked in.
I actually really love IE Slam on this patch. I think there's so many good attack damage, you know, carries that use it in the 4-cost, right? You've got Caitlyn, you've got Ezreal, that both work really well. But I also think that units like Zed and Viego also can use the IE extremely well. And then it ladders you into Kiana can use it, but it's really about, you know, even Yorick being able to use it. It's an item that works at level 9, but it's incredibly strong and flexible at level 8, and so I've been really liking it as a slam.
Especially when you have, we saw so many people actually hit a 2-star Corki or have the Corki headliner. If you have someone that has a powerful spellcast, it is really strong. You know, on an early Corki, you can drop that. Getting a crit early on, especially on one of those AoE abilities, is pretty massive.
And with Big Shot giving the raw AD, right? It stresses really well. So, you know, I'm okay with IE as a slam. I think IE Titans, these are some of the items that I'll be curious to see how many people at the end are playing around them and finding success. This makes sense. You're playing around a board that you're confident you can be playing to preserve HP. You're going to make use of this IE. But if you actually dive deep into the data, it doesn't perform that well on any unit. It's okay on a lot of units. It's not bad. It's better than Titans. I would rather have it than Titans, but it actually is not quite as good as you would think. And in this situation where he's actually not preserving HP, he's going full loss streak, right? So it's just it's a item that I think will be somewhat controversial and will be player dependent over the course of the weekend. Yeah, for sure.
That's a good point. I was kind of wondering where you all were on this spectrum of like, how is like Giant Slayer? What would you really want to like preserve those swords for?
Giant Slayer, I feel like I almost never want it anymore.
Oh, really?
I want it late game. I don't want it. I don't want it
late game.
Late game is really good, but I'm talking. If we're talking about early slams,
exactly. No,
I just never want to slam that as a first item.
Yeah,
it feels really, really bad.
Sure.
I do think, yeah, of course, late game. When people have that really beefy front line, it has a tremendous amount of value. But if we're talking about first item slams, it's almost a never for me. It feels like.
Yeah, the thing is like it's flexible, but if that's your slam, you're probably not winning anyway. So maybe just commit to the loss streak, save the components, and make like really, because bow and sword are both incredibly valuable.
If you can get another bow or something.
Exactly,
like
another bow for red buff. You get a tier, you make Shojin. Like it does make Giant Slayer less attractive until you get to the late stage of the game. And then yes, please hand me a Giant Slayer in my full item anvil. That's what I want to see.
Completely agree. Yeah. We do have one full loss streaker, one full win streaker looking at Krugs. Chaos is your win streaker. Chose to slam that BT on the Corki. So we're playing in the 80 flex, probably playing around a melee carry, and then is it, I don't want to butcher the last name. Anyone know pronunciation on the KR player? Is it Pyrong? I don't know off the top of my head, but it's 71 HP. So actually, as far as 5 loss goes, really good spot.
Look at that. Yeah. It was a nice hold in a shop just to wait to have the econ to be able to grab it. So that's going to be a 2-star Bard. And you're also a 2-star Lilia if you want it.
I think we do want it, Necra. I'm assuming we're going to see a level here. 5 wins, pretty cheap.
Yeah, that makes sense.
It's the 4 Sentinel. It's a huge spike. I mean, this is just a great board.
This is an insane board.
He's got good backline. He's got good front line. Really tough to deal with this in stage 3.
Yeah, I mean, I think having the Bard too as well, like this early on, actually adds quite a lot of sustain, quite a bit of damage. Having 4 Sentinel that early, it doesn't look like a board that almost anyone's gonna be able to beat in stage 3.
Yeah, and the big thing is he had Slam Bloodthirster, which is kind of one of those late game items again, right? You want it with your 4 cost, you want it with your 5 cost, and the fact that he can hold on to a win streak while slamming an item that's gonna be good in his late game, that's a really good spot to be in. I want to talk a bit about Saint as well, because now that we've got him on our screen, like he's in a decent spot in this game, but Saint was doing incredibly well in the North American ladder leading up to this event. He was like top 3 in box boxes.
Yeah, I think he got second even.
He might have ended up second, yeah. But Saint was incredibly good on this, and the last time Saint was really good in tournament, wasn't it set 4 with Chosen? He was incredibly, well, he was at least pretty good on that. It was his best performance.
I watch a lot of Saint, because when Saint is doing well, something is happening. He has some understanding that goes beyond, because Saint
really
is actually, I would say his play is relatively unclean. He makes a lot of micro mistakes in his play and not always doing board optimizations, but his macro is oftentimes where he really shines. And the reason why he was better than people on the previous patch is because he just understood the Fast 9 meta. He was playing far more diverse when he got to level 9. He wasn't always playing around Ziggs, which bodes well considering Ziggs is not nearly the staple it was last patch. Will he be able to find that success and get to level 9 as consistently on this patch? It will be much harder. There's a lot more stage 4 pressure than there was in the previous.
I think we got some pentakill action up in that top right corner. A 5 KDA here.
Yeah, 5 KDA, has obviously the Kai'Sa too. Board's looking pretty good. You're not going to be able to, I think, take down what Chaos has, but
he grabbed the
pretty
rolls
good.
Here. Did he use those? Did anybody see if he used the rolls?
I would be stunned. I would be stunned if he used them.
I don't think
right?
Saint's
entire playstyle has been oriented around pushing levels.
And you can see in the bottom left, it shows how much gold he spent on rolls. Okay. So he spent 0 gold on
0 gold on rolls, so he's going to be holding them. And the question is, will he be able to get to 9 holding them, or what is his new playstyle look like on the patch? Because I thought he was struggling a little bit and adjusting to the new pack. What form has he found, and is it still level 9 centric, or is he more willing to play around 8? The IE slam suggests level 8.
Yeah, and I mean, this board gets plenty of kills as well, right? So even if he doesn't win a lot of these rounds, which he is streaking, but this should be easy enough to make 7, probably even go 8 without many upgrades whatsoever.
Easy.
That was Chaos's board too, that he just beat.
Oh, that's
actually crazy.
That's a really, really big win.
Chaos was on a win streak and took healing orbs.
Just way more damage on Saint's side. Like way more damage. That Kai'Sa 2 with those items is going to pump out so much more DPS. And early Viego, that's a really good unit.
Got 4 true damage too. I feel like when I was looking around the field of competition earlier today, true damage was a big standout.
True Damage has really stepped up. A lot of players were talking about this as like a kind of attack. They were looking at True Damage. They thought it might be pretty good. They'll pivot into it if they see a spot for it. But as I wandered the room as well, we actually just saw a lot of people playing into True Damage. I don't even know exactly like the perfect True Damage composition that you want to put together right now, but I saw a lot of people splashing 4 or finding an emblem and playing 4.
Yeah.
Right? That's the big thing we see is a lot more people willing to play 4 True Damage specifically.
Especially with like Kiana and stuff late game, it can obviously cap out incredibly high, but even for early and mid game, Senna is incredibly powerful. If you can get a headliner Senna,
it's just the best,
that's really strong. Exactly.
It's just Senna 1 is does just unreasonable things with some items. So you'll see a ton of mid-game boards having True Damage on them. The +1 is really good, and you can go vertical. Also, if you get flinged out, then you can just stay committed to it. Otherwise, you move off of it. But I think it's a huge part of the story of this patch, even if you're not going to see it on that many in-game boards.
Very close loss heading into the carousel.
I mean, Saint, first to level 7, obviously trying to protect his win streak. He's on a 5 streak there, did go down to 27 gold to actually maintain it, but if he can keep that rolling,
27 gold
has all those free rolls, he's in a great spot.
Level 7, 3-3, 27 gold, really good, because he's probably going to make 30, 40, 50, right? So he's going to be level 7, 50 gold on his Wolves round. So Saint's in an awesome spot. He's got generically powerful items, although I think he's getting credit for a Death Blade there that's a super fan item. I think Chao is as well. I don't think Chao has 4 completed items yet.
It works really great in this double silver lobby as well because he's got these like econ augments. Well, even though he doesn't have any combat augments, everyone else is on silvers, so it's not like they're getting a hugely meaningful difference over him. And so because of this, he's been able to build such a massive economy lead. And with those extra rerolls that we were talking about, yeah, he's at 730 gold, but he's actually at a lot more gold than that economy-wise because he's going to have those rolls once he gets up to 8.
Big question for Saint is going to be, how does the level 8 roll down go? He will be skipping 7 entirely. Will he 4-2 it, or will he 4-5 it? And how many of these free rolls plus additional gold he needs to spend? Because he's definitely in a spot where he can think about going to 9.
Well, that's what I was going to say, is I think a lot of it just depends on how these next couple rounds go, right? If you can maintain your streak, and if you can keep your HP really high, maybe you don't even roll at all on 8. Maybe you're just saying, hey, we're going to just keep going, or maybe just try to roll a little bit, replace your headliner, try to stabilize through that, but don't over-roll. Try to get quickly to 9.
I think the big thing on this patch that's different from last patch is it used to be don't roll on 8.
Yeah.
That was the way you played. If you spent meaningful amount of gold on 8, you were essentially dooming your game. Whereas this patch, it feels like there's just so many solid 4 costs to play around. You almost always, in this situation, I think, open up Chosen and roll a little bit. You want to roll the bare minimum, and a lot of the skill expression is knowing what board is stable around which Chosen with how much frontline based on your items.
It was the big thing we were talking about over on the coach stream with Soju. It was like talking about which 4 costs are good, and in my mind, there's actually quite a few 4 costs that are good. And if you've built flexible enough items in the early game, there's so many outs, and even then, if you are able to put together a decent carry of 3 costs, and you look at the rest of the shop, not just the Chosen, you can just buy any 4-cost tank and put it together with a decent backline, and it can get you to that 9.
For sure. I'm really excited actually to see Wet Jungler's transition specifically. I'd love to make sure we go back to his board whenever he goes to level 8, and if he tries to roll, what does he play around? Because, like we talked about at the outset, these items are really good early, and they're really good late at level 9 boards. They're awkward to play around an 8, so the style of TFT that it seems like where you're kind of building around a 4-cost Chosen on 8 is going to be a lot harder for him to do. He's one of the favorites in the field, actually, right? Coming off a second-place World Championship performance, really strong player from EMEA, so I'll be curious to see how he's navigating this. This is going to be kind of a complicated spot to figure out in this patch.
We've got Wolves now, so this is a nice opportunity to see where the econ is going to be after we do finish up this PvE round, and then I guess kind of see where players want to commit a little bit more, because I think a lot of players at this point are leaving themselves pretty open. They want to try to take a different line.
Yeah, we can see Lil Kahuna just pick up a Vex headliner there. So pivoting over, going to be playing that. I'm not sure if it was like an emo headliner. I didn't actually catch that, if it was emo or if it was Executioner, but
Vex would be really solid at this stage of the game, though, especially with so many people prioritizing like Yone and Zed and a lot of the melee carries. I actually think Vex does a really good job of countering them, so it can be a solid pickup on stage 4 when people are playing around those melee carries.
The AoE CC is really good if there's a melee heavy part.
So it looks like this person is committing into the country reroll line. It just seems like if you're rolling at level 7, you're opening up Chosen is what you're going for. Surprised if that was the game plan. I'm not sure when we slammed this Rage Blade
Rage Blade's
or
pretty bad.
why. Oh, actually, I do remember. We were on this board. It was right after opening Carousel. We slammed it on Eve, which was not a good item. So I feel like this spot would be about 100 times better if you hadn't slammed the Rage Blade, but it kind of is what it is. Not able to find a Chosen, not able to get 5 country online. So a little bit of an awkward spot here for Hunts.
But does have 5 Urgots, and I don't think we've really seen that many Urgots out. There is like one headliner there, but we'll see. Like if people are actually going to contest and if they're going to stick on it, then it gets really difficult if you can't hit that headliner. But if he can hit an Urgot headliner, then hey, you're kind of in the money. You're already basically at that 3-star.
You know, in the data, there's 2 augments that are not good. I was gonna say, if we get a Prismatic, there's Infernal Contract and Prismatic Ticket that are potential outs for him to get there, and both of them are really bad in the data. I was talking with Panda about this earlier, and he thinks they're still in like the unclickable tier, but I think like looking at this spot, like I feel like Prismatic Ticket's a pretty good out for me if I'm playing that country line.
Soju had a game where he went second in his second game. Oh, that was a Samira 3 that we just saw, I think. Whoa. Saint, meanwhile, did wind up fast aiding, has hit this Ezreal, and this looks like a green light spot to me. He's got enough frontline, even though this Nico is only at 1-star and be way better at 2-star, the double Warmogs Bramble frontline, it's gonna act like a 2-star in terms of its HP pool, and he's got so much damage on this Ezreal with the red buff, i.e. Deathblade combination. So Saint in a very good spot to get to 9 cap out and win this lobby.
He even hit the early Kane, right? So he still actually has a 3 Heartsteel in without actually hurting too much because it was a Heartsteel Ezreal, I do believe. We can see Zed as the headliner being picked up. Still has Jazz in there. And we'll see how the Zed is going to do, because at least in the lobbies that I've been watching, we've been seeing basically no Zed getting played at all.
Zed's pretty good. This is another controversial unit. Soju thinks that Zed's like the best melee carry. Him and I got into an argument on the podcast earlier about whether or not Zed or Viego is better. I'm pretty sure Viego is better, but and I think Colley's better as well. But Zed, especially the crowd diver version, can put in quite a bit of work.
This is an important fight, though, because take a look at this. Chaos is rolled completely down at 0 gold right now. Is really hoping that this is going to be enough to be able to bring it through these next few. Yeah. Looking at the Akali, it's always a little scary when you,
when
you
it's
see
down to
that.
one unit, yeah, and just the double healing, no anti-heal, that Zed DPS should always take care of business.
I mean, it's always a little bit scary for Gear as well, right? He's on a 4 loss streak. He basically rolled it all the way down as well, and then did just take a loss. So
and what is
we'll see.
This? He's still playing Corki Chosen. Does he think he can get to 9?
It's the 8-bit version, which is like, there's no way he's playing for the owl. Like, he's played it all game, but his spot isn't like.
You literally can't get it unless you get like a 3-star Corki super early. If you're talking about like 6, 8-bit cash out,
but it feels
really,
weird
really
to keep this on your board at 4-3.
Yeah.
Maybe it just hasn't seen anything better, but he didn't even sell it to like dig for it, right?
Weird is a nice way of saying bad, Cass.
You know, yeah, you're right. It's kind of bad. I feel like you have to cycle,
on 4-3 with that much gold. I mean, it's one thing if you're 50 gold or whatever, and you're saying, "Hey, I have infinite HP. I'm going to sack and go 9," but that's not what's happening here. What's happening in front of us is in Akali versus that Corki Chosen, and it's just not going to take care of business.
It's winning, I guess. Yeah, no, it's winning.
Is Corki the god?
Like, yes, actually.
Is this the new Annie? You just play the Chosen right out the gates and it can get you through stage 4?
The fact that he's not selling it suggests he thinks he can get to 9 on it, right? Because otherwise you would sell it for sure. So it would be really interesting. I would love to check it on that spot and see how he navigates.
Yeah, because you do the same thing with Annie. Like, you like to roll for the 3-star, but if you are like contested, you just play the Chosen and you just play it up till stage 4.
And we saw 3 Corki 2s on 2.
Yeah, exactly.
So you're not really going for a Corki 3 that game.
Yeah, Corki 3 is never really going to be part of this game.
It was never going to be a part of it. But he does have the Corki Chosen, and he's already picked up a Yorick as well. So
I'm just really curious. So yeah, I mean, I guess he thinks this board goes to 9. That's the only explanation that I can come up with. Or he thinks it's stable for these 2 fights, and that opening Chosen isn't good enough, and he'll sell it and roll on 5-1.
Well, he did just pick up the Yorick as well, so he's got 3 pentakill in, which is going to be really helpful as well, just to kind of help stabilize that front.
Okay, so this...
If he got a Yorick off Carousel, then he has a pair of Yoriks, because he already had a Yorick, I think.
I found a Ziggs as well.
Yeah, he did find a Ziggs. I don't think Ziggs does for this board what it used to. I think that Sona is the new Ziggs in this situation, where Sona it uses the TF tax speed and just makes the whole board kind of sing. This Ziggs will put in some work, and it's an early Zig, so it's still a big hit, but it's just not going to be quite the same thing. But going up against Gear, who has a really weak board playing around this 1-star Hearthus with a Rage Blade, so what Jungler is able to get it done against not the most scary of boards.
I think what it does is it does beef up what was a very weak backline. He was able to find a headliner. His front line's relatively stable with Blitzcrank on stage 4, but then not having much in the way of backline, just 1-star TF, Ziggs with the shred, it helps you get there.
Yep, absolutely. I mean, Wrong's still winning, right? He's at 55 health and with that Corki, so he's going to take the Corki to level 9 for sure. I think at this point he should be able to get there. Saint can go 9, you know, after PV phase if he wants, or he can just sack a couple rounds and try to actually, you know, cap out even higher because he's still very healthy as well. He's still playing 3 Heartsteel with that Kayn as well as the Heart headliner on the Ezreal. That's also Heartsteel, so he's in a really good spot, and I think as long as he has a pretty good roll down at 9, this definitely could be a potential lobby winner.
This is comfort zone for Saint.
Yeah.
He has the highest win share for sure. He's maintained an enormous amount of HP at 58 at this stage in the game. He's got a board that's going to kill units. He's on a 2-loss, but it's not like he's losing really, really badly. I say, is this kind of a 4-unit loss here?
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, it's not the end of the world, right? He's still overall in a good spot, and he's the person that it seems like is by far best in terms of highest win share in this lobby. Now, he might flame out, he might miss, it happens, but I agree. I think Saint's in the best spot to win this lobby for
Here's
sure.
board was pretty scary too. This True Damage Akali actually had the Viego online as well. For sure. Getting a lot of value out of binaries is definitely very good. Wait, no, that's super fan. There's binary on other boards as well. We have like 2 or 3 people playing binary.
So that very early Samira 3 for Hunt has been able to get it done. He was able to win 3 out of 4 fights with it, because I think he hit it on 4 too. Not bad.
He has a duplicator, and he's 2 off Urgot. So if he wants to actually commit it, he's 1 off Urgot, right? If you can hit, you know, maybe you can actually rebuild your economy, but
that's what he has to do. He also has to get these tank items off of this set
onto his Thresh, because he has a Thresh too.
Yeah, and he's really far away from a Moo 3. Great items here. There's
the Urgot.
And he gets a full red buff for this Urgot as well, which is by far Urgot's best item. Urgot scales really well with attack speed. It cleaves, and so it makes use of the anti-heal.
Saint also still has his free rolls, by the way.
Yeah,
we just actually passed over. So,
yeah, for sure. I mean,
so he's gonna have a
Saint's
lot of gold to actually roll down here.
And I'm assuming we're just looking at a duplicate here on the
I think you should. I think at this point you kind of have to.
It'd be very, very greedy not to. He's 3 off of a Moo though.
Saint's still not rolling. He's gonna sack another round or 2, get the next cash out from his Heartsteel, and then just full send it with the free rerolls. Plus he'll have 50, 60 gold, and you got good chances to hit.
And the Hearts scale with stage, so the losses in stage 5 are going to be
3 Heartsteel actually
really
valuable.
It's a really good,
insane on stage 5.
This trait, and a big part of the people who are going to find success this weekend are the ones that understand when and how to play around Heartsteel, because it is so different than every econ trait we've ever printed. It's not about, do you get it on stage 2? It's not about, do you play full loss streak into a Giga win out? It's about, hey, you just actually want to put this on your board whenever you can and greed as many caches as you can, because you do get scaling increased value from each successive stage.
Yeah, I agree. I was talking about this with some people that I feel like a lot of people are still overplaying it in a way they're kind of similar to how they played Piltover, right? Where they're trying to guarantee a 5 loss with a 2-1 Heartsteel, but you're getting only 3 Heartsteel, you're getting so little value out of it, and it can cost you so much HP that oftentimes I've seen a number of games already at this tournament where people are overcommitting to that loss streak, and then they hit 5 Heartsteel, but they're at 50 health, or they're at 40 health, and then you can't actually really commit to that loss streak on 5 Heartsteel where you could get a tremendous cash out.
Here's Saint's board. We just saw him roll his entire economy, his entire bank got rolled down, and he ends up on Jhin with these items. Pretty solid to go in that Jhin direction, but he needs to find very good front line for this unit to work out.
Yeah, he needs to find beyond incredibly good front line for this unit to work out. No mana Jhin is so slow, and remember that Jhin doesn't get that attack speed, right? It converts the additional attack speed into additional damage, so this is definitely not the roll down Saint was looking for, not the something he wanted to play around. That is not a spot I'm excited about.
And now he's at 17 health.
Yeah.
Right? So he actually did the full roll down. And then you're in this awkward spot, and I've had this happen a lot of times. I love playing Fast 9, where you hit a Chosen that you weren't really looking for. You're in a bad spot. You're still losing. And you're like, well, do I sell the Chosen? Because then that gets really, really dicey. But from here, it's not a win out unless he starts hitting some more.
It's not. And I'm a little surprised at how that
even.
I'm a little surprised at how this shook out, because he had the Shojin. He also had a remover if he wanted. And I think he needs to remover on this gen. I just don't think.
No, just drop super fan.
Drop super fan is great, right? He just needs any way of getting the Shojin on the gen, because the difference between the Shojin on the Jhin and not is just massive.
I mean, Jhin is just so slow. Like, I am so not a fan of Jhin unless you have, like, if you have the most cap board, yes, it is really strong.
That is not right, Saint. There's just no way that it's 2-item Jhin here when you have his DIS, essentially, the debuff is slightly better, but you really do need that mana gen. He just doesn't start doing his damage until he gets the 4 turrets out.
Yeah, I mean, it has to be item on Kiana, but like you can't sacrifice your necessary Jhin item.
I just think he's screwed, to be honest. I mean, from this point, I don't think Jhin gets it done. Like, he doesn't have enough of a front line, right? Like, I think straight up, Ezreal 2 is way better than Jhin 2, unless you have an amazing front line.
Yeah, I agree.
It's way too slow, and you don't have any mana generation on it. I think it's a really, really tough spot for him now. We have one player out in 8th, but Saint, definitely a favorite in this lobby, is potentially facing down a 7th from what we thought was such a good spot.
Is he going to gunblade this Jhin? No, he's got to remove her Kiana, put the
But then if he's going to remove the Kiana, wouldn't he just put the Shogun on the Jhin right away? And Red Buff is a really bad Jhin item too. So like if I was in his situation, I think you could have kept playing Super Fan, keep the Deathblade, and you go Shogun plus the IE, and then you just play the T4. He finally hits a Stone, which is a really big deal. He's been waiting to be able to do this for the whole time.
Okay, so it's Kiana.
Okay, so this is correct for sure. But yeah, he is really, really light on the front line. Yorick
he
one,
really needs Yorick 2 or Alawi 1, but
Thresh 1.
I mean, yeah, this is tough. And it's like, yeah, it is a Jazz board, but 2 Jazz doesn't really do that much for you anymore. And he's not going to hit on this final roll down. So, he has a pair of Yorks, a pair of Threshes, but
he drew a Ghost, and it's the Corky board still, so I assume we're okay here.
I was going to say potential out, though, to
don't doubt Corky.
Look, is it bad or is it tech, Price? That's the question.
I mean, if Saint loses this fight, I'm a Corky one trick. I'm never throwing this unit ever
again. Jhin is the worst unit in the game.
Oh, no.
I mean, this fight's like high-key close.
But I was thinking a way he could have beefed up his front line is you play that Kiana, you put the red buff on it, and then you scout like hell. You find positioning. You farm items for your front line. You have a set 2. If he gets items on it, it does make this
He's
good
going to think about selling there.
For early stage 5.
He's going to think about selling the Jhin
Yeah,
there.
for the Sona too.
The Heartsteel is so good, but he doesn't have a damage dealer if he does that. I don't think, or the Stone 2. I don't think he can do that. So here we are. We're level 9.
Edgelord
we got to level 9 with not very much gold. And Kayn could work here actually.
Yeah,
he has double healing.
He's got double healing.
He's got double healing.
That's
I mean,
what he wants.
this is actually the best chosen he could have hit under the circumstances.
Yeah,
There's no unit that would do more work with those 2 items than the Kayn.
Yeah, we saw a lot of success, with these Kayn headliners in the last set of lobbies. It can definitely do work. If it can get to the backline quickly, it really dominates. If it does not, a lot of these single target units then just hit too hard. The Jhins, the Aries, etc. can really burst it down. So we'll see.
It's double healing. That's the big deal. It needs to be able to sustain for the whole fight. Saint has built a stable board, and this is a situation where, especially if he hits Alawi 2, Yorick 2, it gets dicey.
If he hits that,
on level 9, 2 HP, but you only need 1. He's got more than enough to spare, and if he hits those 2 units, I think he probably still does go on and win the game.
But the tough part is, get some of these comps that have pretty good backline access. Like if you play into that Kayn and just gets straight to the backline of your Jhin, your game is over, right?
If
the Jhin ever actually gets focused, he didn't put the Gunblade on the Jhin, right?
He did.
No, he did? Okay.
It is Gunblade Jhin, which is the reason his front line is even lasting this long. Like he does need that with how weak his front line is.
Yeah, absolutely. Plus, I just think when there's so much backline access in this set, when you're like essentially playing a 1-threat team, it almost has to have sustain, or it's just going to die to to a Karthus, or to a TF, or to a Ziggs, or to whatever. There's so many different units that can reach backline.
Gear hitting level 9, rolling down. Chaos at level 9 as well. Man, everyone, it was like delayed 9 game, but everyone ultimately got there, and this is probably part of the reason why the Corky was able to get there as well, because everyone was just kind of comfortable with their semi-stable versions of their boards.
Chaos did a really good job of preserving HP as well through that mid game, so I feel like that was really important in order to delay being able to get to level 9, and now he has a lot of gold to work with.
Blue buff Kiana is what I'm seeing here.
Blue buff Kiana is high.
Oh, and is it on? Oh, it's on to Yorick right away, so it's just going to be able to keep casting and pumping out those tank items. It's going to get a 3rd cast off here. Is it going to be enough, though? Saint's Jhin is ramping up, and there's just so much frontline here. The Zed's going to get stuck on this Alawi for a little bit. The Jhin is targeting Zed, the double healing, so very little in the way of damage. Saint takes care of business, and he did hit the Yorick 2 as well, by the way.
Wow, he lived, though.
2. Saint is back in the driver's seat here in an unbelievably close lobby HP-wise.
I mean, that is such a risky game. We'll see. I mean, he could still go 7. Okay, Gear went out. And sorry, so 2 did go out. So Saint has got himself into the top 5. And Chaos on 1 HP, Saint on 2 HP, White Jungler only on 13 HP. This is a ridiculously close lobby. A bad loss could be the end of it for a lot of them.
Yeah, the really hard thing for Chaos is even though he saved all that HP, which helped him get to 9, now there's so many 5 costs out of the pool. He's one of the last people to kind of get there and start rolling, which is why we still see him on this Zed, right? There's not really a great way to get out of this, and he's just trying to hold on for one more fight, and the Kiana is a big way to do it, and we have to see how his positioning continues to be.
Is it on TK or is it on the Amumu? Oh, never mind.
Oh, different side. Different way. We're somewhere else entirely.
We've transported to the 3-star board. Saint trying to take care of what is a much beefier front line. Looks like he's just, the country board is just too much. The Jhin is ramping up. It's got the extra turrets on the back line. Here comes the damage, but there's so much left alive. So the Urgot is down. Is Samira going to cap? Is Samira going to cap?
There you go. Saint stays alive. It's so big.
Oh my god, by the skin of his teeth, Saint is just staying alive with the Jhin. All the violins out. He was fully stacked. And when you have lifesteal on that Jhin and you get all that time to ramp up, sometimes there's not enough damage in the tank to actually burst it down.
And the true Maestro Saint never doubted it, stoic for the entire fight. The crowd is winding up, we're winding up, and this man is just sitting there staring at a screen like, you guys, it's over. I got this. There's enough damage. Relax.
Yeah, so totally
I'm gonna doubt that. You need a heart rate monitor to confirm what you're saying.
Listen, if that's not a resting rate of 50,
there you go. Yeah, he's down.
he's basically dead out here, Azale. He repositioned beautifully here, by the way. You're talking about the cane and worrying about the cane. It's completely away from the cane.
Yeah, that thing is healing, though. It's just very live.
This cane is a monster, man. It's a monster, the double healing cane.
Jin's on it. Jhin, one more shot. Oh, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. He's still gone. But top four from that spot.
That's
still
big.
not bad.
That's big. I mean, well, it's funny because we say from that spot, but it was like he was in the best spot ever.
And then
the
it
worst
was bad.
spot ever.
Yeah.
He fumbled the transition a little bit, you guys. He got there in the end, but it was not the cleanest level 9, which is surprising to me because he's a player that has among the most experience. And usually when I watch him, he does that very clean.
We didn't necessarily see it. We didn't see the roll down, right? And he did have a lot of gold to do it, plus all the free rolls. Sometimes it can be in that spot, and I know this can be a tough decision. It's like when you're going for a fast 9 style and you get to 9, you really want to hit a legendary, right? Like you really want to hit a 5-cost headliner. But if you're rolling, it's only a 10% chance. Sometimes you're 10, 15 rolls in, you haven't actually hit it yet, and then all of a sudden you're running out of gold, and you're like, well, should I have just taken the Thresh? Should I have just taken the Ezreal? Should I have just taken something else? It can be really, really tough.
Yeah, and we'll see a lot of players even sometimes tunnel on it, and they'll miss upgrades in their shop of other things that could have built a pretty good board overall, and then you're broke. And a lot of times the best players don't do that. I don't think Saint's a player who would have been skipping a lot of upgrades. I mean, there's a reason he climbed so much LP. There's a reason, he was one of the people that answered the survey that Ganglion sent out. He said his form is at a 9, he's at some of the best, and he doesn't get nervous here at all. So.
Oh, the Samira takes care of business against that Kayn in the back line. There is still an Ezreal pumping out the DPS.
Yeah, no sustain on the Samira, so this next Ezreal cast might get close.
It's going to be really close. The Urgot is still alive. Here comes the Samira cast. Big DPS is going to be Ezreal versus Samira.
Ezreal got it.
And that is it.
That's just a double kill.
The Corki Whisper into a double kill for the top one.
Is it bad or is it tech, Bryce?
I have a lot of thoughts about what I just witnessed.
First among them is that you'd like to apologize to Corki players everywhere.
Yeah. Yes, I think you're a Corki one trick
and to
now.
Corki personally, it's not. Do I need to apologize to the players or the Corki that I doubted?
You apologize to the Corki or to the actual ship that he's piloting? You know, who's the real athlete?
That's actually a really good point. Corki just sits there and auto attacks. Doesn't do anything.
Yeah, he's not doing anything.
So lazy.
Yeah.
All the other units are like running around the board, dashing around the board.
Exactly.
This guy's just chilling
he
in
can just get out, do something himself.
He's just listening. He's got his 8-bit soundtrack going on. He's just hanging out.
Vibing, yeah. He's got the speakers.
He's just getting in there bumping.
He's actually just playing a video game.
Yep. Respect though, Brong, really good game from him, able to make it happen at the end. But some pretty surprising finishes. I feel like the Country Roller was in what seemed like a pretty rough spot, but then was able to 3-star really quickly. I don't know if we're going to get highlights, but it would be interesting to see his roll down because that roll down must have been like everything. Because at one point, it felt like we saw his board. He was on like 3 or 4 Samiras, and then next round he's on a Samira 3.
I think the big
without it being a headliner.
Yeah, he did have the headliner. So I did get
highlights,
and he grabbed the headliner on the roll down, which I assume would happen. He was really early.
Yeah, but still, like, was very close to getting that Urgot 3 and then just, like, hit it. It was
Urgot
also,
3,
yeah,
Samira
the
3,
Samira 3.
yep.
But literally just kind of the perfect storm to be able to make sure that that country board was going to be able to get off the ground and running.
And I don't think we talk about the winning board enough. You know, a lot of players in this field are not particularly open to Kayn. I think that's a huge mistake, especially in that situation where you have double healing. I don't know that you can do any better than Kayn chosen. And then the correct decision to play around Ezreal as the backline carry, not a 5-cost AD. I think Ezreal is going to be more consistent source of DPS with those items than Jhin would be, for example.
Yeah, I think people default to Jhin way too much when Ezreal, I think, is really strong. You know, I do think, you know, having that backline access, you know, works really well, especially in conjunction with Kayn. You can sometimes get to that backline a lot more easily. When Ezreal ult goes through, Kayn gets in the backline on these softened up targets, you can really go crazy.
And sometimes even if it is, you know, Heartsteel Kayn, you end up linking that, and you're actually just getting extra components as that game is going on, even if you're winning your rounds.
That was what Saint was doing, right?
Stuff. Yeah, you're still getting things from it, improving your board. It's the same, one of the reasons Qiyana has the highest cap in the game. You get those extra components to cap out your board even further. So it kind of gives you that same out to even beat those Qiyana boards that are capping out.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, Saint hit that early Kayn. You know, he had his headliner being a Heartsteel Ezreal, so he played that for a while, got a little bit more income. Heartsteel across all the lobbies that I've been watching today has been a really big part of it. People are splashing into this, and the best players are really understanding, you know, just how long to commit to this, how much they can actually get.
The units are just too strong, right? The reality is K'Sante is among the best 1 cost, Pele is among the best 2 costs, Set and Yone are among the best 3 costs. You're just not sacrificing unit strength in order to have their easy to play around. Their traits aren't bad, they're secondary traits, right? So a lot happening. You know, the real unsung hero of this whole situation was the binary value. He wound up with a bunch of items that he could spread out really well. He got tons of good value from binary and his upgrades, and also just the recognition of the ability to get to 9 on Corki. That is not something I have seen done yet on this patch. He was correct in his ability to do there. He hits on level 9 and he wins the game.
Yeah, I mean, I wanted to talk a little bit about Hunters as well, because we were talking about the Titans Resolves and how we don't like that item so much as a slam. There's actually one out that I like a lot with Titans Resolve. It's actually playing around country. It's actually playing into that line and playing around Urgot. I think he's one of the few units that can actually use it quite well. He's tanky enough that he lives and he'll actually stack up, and then he gets the value out of the resistances and gets to regen back up. So
especially with Mosher slashed in, like everyone just plays Set alongside that board. You get the Mosher in, get the additional Omni Vamp, but he even had the 3-star Amumu in as well, so was able to hit quite a lot and push some levels. You know, ended up being a pretty successful line for him. I do think, you know, if you can hit your 3-star Urgot and Samira relatively early, that board can get really strong. You can add in some legendaries, push 9, cap out pretty heavily.
It's one of the best item users because you play around 3-star Urgot, 3-star Samira, 3-star Amumu, sometimes 3-star Set. You have the Thresh 2 up there, Vex as well, and so it's just really easy to see. The board scales infinitely as the game goes on. There's never having too many items in the line.
And I always really like when you're playing those compositions, those lines that can use AP items, AD items, like you can use everything very easily. You have a holder for everything you want.
Well, this was an amazing first game for Heat number 2. We still have 2 more games to determine which of our 4 players from this lobby are going to be able to move forward. So we're going to take a short break, and when we come back, we've got game number 2 of Heat 2.
When I press play, all I hear is you. Oh, every single song tells me we're through. Yeah, but I can't turn it off cause it's the truth. Yeah, it's the truth. And it goes like ooh, yeah. When I press play, all I hear is you. Oh, every single song tells me we're through. Yeah, but I can't turn it off cause it's the truth. Yeah, it's the truth. And it goes like ooh, and it goes like ooh. like true, and it goes like true, 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 yeah, yeah. When I press play, all I hear is you. Oh, every single song tells me it's you. Yeah, but I can't turn it off 'cause it's the truth. Yeah, it's the truth, and it goes like ooh, yeah, yeah. When I press play, all I hear is you. Oh, every single song tells me we're through. Yeah, but I can't turn it off 'cause it's the truth. Yeah, it's the truth, and it goes like ooh, me who's the radio. Tells it's the truth. You, me who's the radio. Off 'cause it's true. Me who's the radio. Tells it's the truth. You, me who's the radio. Off 'cause it's true.
Yeah, I'm super excited. I've played TFT since set 1, the beta for set 1, literally day 1. The other major like in-person tournament besides like, well, not even Worlds has been in person because of like COVID and everything that's happened since. So yeah, like we had TFT Summit, which was just like a handful of streamers and players to get together in person. And that was one of the most fun weeks of my life. So I'm excited to bring it back. This is basically going to be the same thing, and I'm super excited for that. Just to compete in person, hang out with everyone. It's a way different experience playing like next to people than online. So I'm super excited.
What an exciting sentiment to share here that we are all in person at the TFT Vegas Open. We are in the middle of heat number 2 of our top 512 that are here competing. So things are getting pretty heated up.
You know, I actually got a note from production before I came up here, and they said, there's not enough bias on this couch. So I just want to take a quick little survey. Raise your hand here. Who is expecting Chaos to go first the next 2 games?
Chaos to go first the next 2
Fake
games.
fan. Fake fan. Fake fan. Chaos is the coolest guy, wears the coolest clothes, is the man from Singapore, builds the best boards, and he's about to take it home.
I'm here for it.
I'm here for the conviction, actually. I think the way that you said that makes everybody believe that, not gonna lie.
Listen, we've got 2 more games left. It didn't go his way. He wanted to make everyone feel like they belong there with him.
A false sense of security.
Exactly.
So that's the gentleman's agreement is what you're saying.
He's reeled him in, and now it's time to play.
Now it's time for chaos.
Oh, absolutely.
It's time for chaos.
It's all in the name, apparently. One of the biggest names in the house, too, you can see him on the screen here, Disguised Toast. He has been such a huge part of esports development, especially for Riot titles over the last few months and even just this last year. So it's been amazing to see him here, to be able to not just compete, but also to be able to sponsor some of the players that are here at the event.
Yeah, I mean, he's sponsoring 10 players for TFT. You know, he's sponsoring a league team. He's getting into Val. He's getting into all the Riot titles. So definitely doing a lot. This guy's definitely one of the most, I think, exciting new esports teams around. And the hoodies are looking pretty nice, I'm just going to say.
Yeah, I mean, we talk about TFT, the Vegas Open, being the celebration, right? And honestly, you kind of have to be thankful for these people like Toast, right, who have actually poured so much in to get all of these personalities here and taken care of. And it's all just a big part where everyone here, it feels like we're all just cogs in the wheel that make up this great big story of TFT.
Yeah, it's really cool because there's actually, there's also Team Juno and there's Team High Roller. There's a couple other teams that have brought a bunch of people in.
And then we also have Box, right? He's another person that I feel like we would be remiss to not shout out here as one of the people that have really helped put TFT on the map of a lot of different people's radars. He was sadly eliminated here, but this is some highlights from his game.
I didn't know that, but I was going to say, that's a pretty good start. 6 Yasuo on 1-4.
Sorry to spoil that for you.
Yeah, what the heck? You ruined the end of the movie. I was just getting excited.
They ruined it for me in my ear.
In the previous patch, it was like such bait when you were given that many Yasuos. It's like, oh, I feel like I want to reroll this, and then you would just go 8. But now this patch with the true damage being so much better, Yasuo getting some buffs, it's really sick.
Yeah, it looked like he didn't actually end up in that direction, going for the Senna reroll anyway. Unfortunately, came up a little short, but sometimes that's just TFT.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially when you're playing a lot of these reroll lines. We haven't been seeing too many players do well with those reroll lines, and it looked like he didn't even have Senna as his headliner. He had, I think it was like a Mumu headliner, it looked like, with the Senna 3. So a lot of the power with that Senna, I think, is in that headliner ability, having the bigger kind of circle on the damage.
I think we're seeing the true damage line actually kind of come to life. I've been circling around, kind of, being a vulture on some of the different setups, and we're actually seeing true damage being played both vertically, but also in the reroll variation as well.
We really have, and I would love to see what maybe some of our other big streamers have been up to. We also have Skara that's here competing, so it's very cool to be able to see something like that and also get a chance to hear from him.
My goodness, I mean, you look at this picture right now.
Hey everyone, we're here on Station 15. Game 1 just finished, Skara, second place. What was going through your mind in this Game 1?
I got really lucky. Like, super lucky. Like, unbelievably lucky. I've never been this... My opener was disgusting. I think if you looked, I got 3 Samiras at 1-2, and I've never had that before in my life. Like, any opener in any game, I played 200 games this set so far. So I'm just like, okay, well, I guarantee top 4, and if I play it well, I knew I was going to be first or second. So I placed second. I props out to the person who plays first. I don't know if you've seen them around, but they're this site group named with Lab in their name, and they all have lab coats. I met them right before this. They are awesome people. They have a scientist who literally did like custom lab coats for all of them to wear for the event. So they're really cool guys.
I agree. It looks so cool. Thanks so much, Skara, and best of luck in Game 2.
Thank you.
That's all.
Really cool to hear that he actually went top 2 as well. Maybe having that ability to advance. I know he's been playing TFT for a long time. I don't think he's a challenger player, but he's always masters and at least pretty high up there. So it's fun to see him. I watched him in the LCS for so many years. He's a really beloved streamer, and to see him competing here and doing well is great.
People talk about Skara. I've heard him being given the nickname the Godfather, right? But I actually feel like in so many ways, Skara is a part of the origin story for so many people in TFT, because he was the one that really did bring it to the forefront, show people that this is a game of variance, but the skill in it does so much to show how you can find an edge.
Yeah, and I feel like he's continually got better and better, and playing with PSG, he's been in the in-house lobbies with some very, very good players. I know he's also prepped with quite a few other players in the room. I know he was prepping a little bit with Saber and Silverfuse and Sun, so he's definitely been putting in the work.
Well, let's go ahead and get ready for our game number 2 of Heat 2 here, as we're gonna get a chance to look at the portal selection for all of our players that are here on the main stage. We ended up seeing a really tight lobby number 1 here for this set of players. So let's see what game 2 has in store for us.
All right, let's see what portal we get. That's the first step of this game. 3-cost champion.
Again?
Maybe that's how Skara found a Samira 2 on round 2, right? 3-cost champion and then gets an orb.
3-cost champion is such an interesting start, because you always know on 1-2 you have everybody in the game scouting around to see who got some sort of high roll, right? In the last patch, the MF, the Nico was one of those. This time around, though, I think it's a little bit different. I'm not sure if those lines are going to be as high roll as they once were.
I personally am always really happy if I get a Heartsteel 3-cost.
Yeah.
It feels so nice, because I think there's a lot of different lines you can play with Set or with Yone. Makes it really easy to hit that 3 Heartsteel right off the bat. An Edgelord. So we saw this, it was interesting in one of the earlier games, and it wasn't picked up, right? They didn't actually end up buying it. Yes, they did give you the 3 Edgelord, but we've been seeing almost no one actually play towards those early Yasuo Chosens.
Well, it's also one of those things where it's like you take the headliner out of the pool, so you have a lower chance of maybe hitting something that you might want instead. So maybe it is kind of the bait to see the Yasuo in there to get that active trade right away. Instead, you're keeping yourself so open for other lines to consider.
Yeah, I mean, most players do not want to commit on, 1-3, 1-4 into like what line.
Double set.
Yes, you wouldn't have to do it, but it's still, definitely not something that a lot of players are going for. And we haven't even seen that many people forcing Yone reroll. It's pretty little.
I think I saw it one game so far.
I think we saw one where someone forced it 1/8.
Yeah, they definitely didn't go well. They didn't hit 3-star. I mean, I think they got stuck on like seven Yones or something like that. I mean, that's the risk of playing any of those lines. When you play 3-cost reroll and people are pushing 8, pushing 9, and you're stuck on 7 still rolling, if you don't hit, it's just lights out.
Chaos opting to hold 2 3-costs here is kind of interesting. I actually feel like a lot of times you'll find players tend to sell that 3-cost in order to get a little bit more econ. Lots of prismatic augments in here.
I see a determined investors in the top left. It's a little bit hard on 2-1.
I see that grill packed as well.
Cruel Pact can be good, but a lot of people stay away from it. It's really scary
So risky.
here on the big stage, right? It's pretty good for top 4.
There's 2 Cruel Packs getting offered, and we are seeing.
He's thinking about it. He clicked it, right?
Did he?
Oh,
No,
no,
he clicked birthday present.
He did not. He did not.
Aw.
I don't think he clicked it.
I wasn't sure if it was birthday present. That would have been fun to watch.
That was a fun one.
Yeah, it was. You're right.
Oh,
It was birthday present.
yay!
This is a much more consistent, stable augment than Cruel Pact is.
Especially when you're looking for those top 4s, right? You might not want to get the risk for that high reward.
You can see him in the player cam too. He's smiling. I don't know if he's a little confused on how to play this board. He's got his headliner unit on the bench right now, but sometimes that's the nature of birthday present. When you're kind of throwing a wrench in your plans when you get an upgraded unit that does not always just fit your board.
I mean, it's 2-star Evelyn and then also having a headliner on the bench. And it feels like with birthday presents, you usually want to win streak, right? You're getting these upgraded units, and so definitely feels like a tough start here. Hunter's not really figuring out exactly how to piece together that board.
I also feel like when you're playing birthday present, it's so important to actually stay really healthy and to be able to push levels as fast as you can, right? To try, because the power of the augment is really in the late game, right?
Yeah,
like you get to 8, you get to 9, you get to 10, whatever. If you can reach those high levels, then all of a sudden it can be completely game changing. So you're hoping that you can get a lot of these 2-starred units to kind of just springboard you towards that. So you're not having to spend too much gold on rolling at all.
See, he's got 4 true damage already.
Does.
That's pretty nice. That's pretty
4
nice.
true damage.
Game.
Freaky Friday. Triforce Kennen. I know the Kennen damage was nerfed a little bit on this patch.
Significantly, yeah.
Yeah. So I'm not exactly sure how strong. First, I've never played damage Kennen on my front line, so I'm not exactly sure, but I imagine that playing 4 true damage early is going to give you a lot of damage naturally.
Well, and Infinity Force, I don't think it's bad early game as like a frontliner item, because it does have armor, it does have mana, it has everything, right? You know, it's not just a purely damaged item. I always see it kind of as more like bruisery. So, you know, I do think it can work, you know, in the early stages. And Kennen, yes, it was nerfed, but still is going to put out a significant amount of damage, you know, on these early stages. Ooh, Heartsteel.
That's so tempting.
I would be shocked if he's not going to buy that. He's on Tiniest Titan, and this would give him 3 Heartsteel, or 4 Heartsteel, actually.
I was about to say this. I'm with you.
Is he
like,
waiting?
He has
waiting.
to buy that.
Yeah, he's definitely waiting.
There's no way you don't buy that.
He's waiting.
For what?
So people don't see it.
For the Corki too, because that's what did it for our last game.
Yeah, see? I think he was just waiting.
I mean, I know he was
like,
waiting. I
People
was
don't
with
want to
you.
see the tech
He was
yet.
waiting. He didn't do anything yet.
you know
He
what?
was objectively waiting.
He was waiting.
No. So I actually think that the reason he was waiting is because there's another Heartsteel player in the game. So it's possible that if he takes Heartsteel, that the other Heartsteel player positions his board in a way to guarantee the loss. However, the fact is, you're picking up a 2-star Felios, right?
Yeah. And again, I don't think it actually matters if you lose every round, especially early on. And this just gets you towards a potential of getting 5 Heartsteel relatively easily. And he's playing Tiniest Titan, or is Tiny Titan?
Tiniest
Titan, and then it goes Tiniest Plus. I know it changes when you based on when you get it. But either way, you know, that with an early Heartsteel is going to feel so good, especially if you can have close losses. It is such a powerful trait.
The argument I would say, though, is that if you can, so for instance, you don't pick up the Aphelios headliner there, and you pick up the Aphelios 1 and the headliner, because you can sell the 2 units on your board and play 3 Heartsteel, you get the loss, get pick priority on carousel.
That doesn't get me 5 Heartsteel.
No, but the pick priority could, and then you slot in the 5 Aphelios after.
All right. I mean, even for me, I think one of the big things with Heartsteel early when you get it on stage 2 is, as you were saying, like, you don't need to lose every round.
Yeah.
Like, I'm totally fine if I hit it on stage 2 and I win streak stage 2. I'm like, oh, that's great. I love
completely
that.
fine.
Like, that sounds fantastic.
Exactly.
And then you try and find 5 and then lost streak in stage 3.
Exactly. I think it's actually really important to keep your health up enough so that if you do hit 5, you can actually do something with it. Because when you hit 5, that is when you can get the really big game-changing cash outs. So we'll see how they're going to play it. But Heartsteel has become such a big part of this event so far. People are constantly teching it in, trying to greed the most that they can.
Lo Kahuna found the Corki too.
The Corki.
The
legendary Corki.
So we already know it's a win out.
Yeah, that's a win to level 9 for sure.
I mean, Corki is really, really strong. We're joking, obviously, but Corki is a very, very strong headliner. You know, you get that early. It's reliable damage. Can get you through some of these early stages, but this Kennen with the Infinity Force doing work.
8-Bit did get that buff. So it's kind of nice too to just get that online right away and just start racking up some of those points. But yeah, Wet Jungler, we're gonna check in on what's happening on his board. He ended up bringing his
I
picking
actually
the stationary support.
hate that stationary support. That is so bad because you have the big gem, which you want to actually not die for 15 seconds, but then you also kind of want to have your other one die to actually get the bonus healing coming through. So I feel like this is kind of one of those low rolls that you can get with stationary support. I actually really like this augment, but sometimes you get ones that are kind of like, you know, juxtaposed or not really making your positioning easy.
Yeah, it's weird because it's like a low roll, but also a high roll because they're both very good support items. Like Big Gem is, in my opinion, one of the best support items right now.
I mean, it's basically Ascension, right?
Yeah, it's Ascension plus you get Econ. It's so good. You get, you know, that extra augment, you get Econ, and then you get something tacked on. But Virtue, I agree, like, you want that to die. You want it to be in the front. Plus, you want your dummy to be tanking.
That's what I was gonna say.
Late game is like 3k HP that you have to sit in the back line. It's horrible.
Especially in the early stages. Like, I take this augment a lot. I really like this augment, but when I've hit this combo before, you have to put it in the back because you do want your big gem to proc. You do want to get that gold from it, but it means that you're basically just down a prismatic in a lot of cases, right? Because your entire front line is going to die first. So it is really difficult to actually get value out of it.
The balance will just have to be like in front of your carry. Like it's still backline, but like you hope that you live long enough that it still becomes a tank.
But I feel like with dummies, you always want them to die first.
No, I know you do. It has virtue on it.
Exactly. You want your abilities to go off. You want to be able to get that mana, get the spells off. But either way, we'll see if it does work out.
How about Crash Test Dummy though?
Well, so actually,
those are good.
So actually, it might be a really good thing for them to get Crash Test Dummy because even though it jumps forward, you still get to put it in the back line. It's not going to jump all the way into the front line. You might still get gem value, especially in the late game when it is like that 3k HP dummy.
It's cool to see so much diversity, regional diversity in a lobby like this, right? Where you have these SEA players, Gear and Chaos, unsurprisingly on top right now, am I right? But then on top of that, you've got second place at the Runeterra Reforged Championship, Wet Jungler, and then this myriad of different North American players. It's one of the coolest things about this event to see all the talent come together.
I've been holding it in the whole time because we have Lil Kahuna here, and you know, I just need everybody who's in chat probably has already got the Sumi spam, but if not, it's all the Discords, the competitive Discords. Everyone's got the Sumi spams out, you know, giving power to Lil Kahuna so he can actually pop off here. One of the biggest memers in North American TFT, and we love the guy.
Right, but honestly, Lil Kahuna, kind of known for a memer, but can we just give some credit because kind of popped off set 9, right? Like, had a top 16 run. This is not someone who's a joke, right? As much as they may make jokes, they themselves certainly not.
You can hear the love for him in the crowd
Yes, it's
too.
Sumi spam, someone scream.
Yeah, exactly. That was legit. All right, we got another augment selection though. This time it's going to be silver.
I'm down. Okay, it's resolved.
Nope, it's gone.
And
goodbye.
I was like, I don't think he's down.
Oh, there's another one. It's gone.
no, there's one more.
Oh, there's one more.
Middle right.
It's Chaos. Does he want Chaos?
Come on, one time Chaos.
There's also 2 of them are sitting on Recombobulator, so they're considering.
Did he do it?
He did?
He did.
Wait, what did he get? What did he get?
I see. Pick it.
It's hard to see. It's very small.
I can't see.
He has an Alawi. The most electrifying man in teamfight tactics does it.
Holy cow.
Yeah, so we got Alawi, Thresh, and Lucian on the one board. Oh, so was this? Wait.
No, this is Chaos' board. This is Chaos.
It is Chaos.
The Thresh was just on the bench. So he still has 3 Heartsteel in. Lucian definitely not what he used to be because I think, you know, Jazz is a lot weaker, and people don't really generally play around rapid fire, so it's like it's certainly not like that big carry that you want to play around. You can tank in rapid fire, it's fine, but right now he has 1 big shot, 1 rapid fire, so now those traits are unfortunately active for his carries.
I think it's nice right now because you can always take this board, win streak a little bit, and then maybe pivot into something else.
Well, and this one scales very naturally, right? Because you already have the Alawi, which is insanely broken on stage 3, right? Getting the 2 tentacles, you're just way tankier than everyone else. But then also having the Misfortune carry right now, you've got Jazz in, you've got really good pieces of the level 9 comp, right? The Thresh that you want to pair with the Yorick, you've got the Alawi that you're going to pair with the Bruiser, you've got the Jazz.
Line's already kind of set up.
Yeah, exactly. You can play some of these different lines. So it's really flexible, it's really modular, and I think that's what was so nice about that Recombobulator, why it was so high roll.
And sometimes we see people play Recombobulator and they just go for it, right? They just dump everything in there and pray they cash out with the perfect build. Keeping the MF there to actually be able to have a consistent backline, no matter what your front line ends up with, is a really great call. And honestly does, like you're saying, set him up for the future.
Got Wet Jungler versus Gear in this next fight. But the 8-bit on the other side, so Gear's definitely trying to make sure that that's going to ramp up, but this front line here from Wet Jungler is still holding pretty strong right now. That Corki, though.
Oh, that's Kahuna's board, isn't it? The Corki?
It is.
Yeah, okay. So we got Gear in the corner, but yeah, it's little Kahuna playing on
Against
the
Hunts.
Corki.
Yeah.
What Jungler?
Well, now I'm
definitely
confused.
No, it's okay.
The cameras weren't corresponding to the players, but yeah, it was Lil Kahuna versus Hunt.
Spat,
down
Jungler
there.
grabbed it. What does he have? Does he have an open component?
He's the one with the big gem. So he has a chain.
Belt?
Chain open.
Oh, yeah, he has a chain. So pentakill is an option?
It's true.
Yeah, he doesn't really have the board for it.
Yeah, I'm looking at it as like.
He doesn't. He's playing like full Heartsteel. He did hit the Ezreal, so he must have 5 Heartsteel now. And I'm curious to see like exactly how much health he does have, and how he wants to actually play from here. Does he go for 7 Heartsteel? I don't think you do, but I'm just kind of curious on this transition. So he took the cash out, and we'll have to see where he wants to actually go from here.
So he's got the super fan front line, some big shots in the back. I mean, it's not bad. I don't know how deep he's going to go, if he's just going to sit. Honestly, it looks pretty stable to me.
KDA feels really nice here, though, too.
Yeah, has 5 KDA, has double Ezreal already as well without having rolled at all. He just hit 7, so we got 2 Ezreals on 6. If you hit an early Ezreal too, you are really, really stable, especially if you can get some more AD items. But his itemization is not great. I mean, you got a Last Whisper, 2 frontline items, and then a Spat, right? Like, and that's it. He doesn't have an extra component. So I'm kind of curious where he's actually going to go with this spatula. You can always just slam a Jazz Spat if you can actually pick up a cloak and then just, okay, I'm playing 2 Jazz, I guess. But it's not the most exciting thing, and it's definitely not that game-changing, I feel like, anymore.
It also doesn't feel like the out he was playing for whatsoever here, right? Like, that Spat feels like, I mean, with the slams here, I guess you can always do that.
But what are you trying to go for if you have
a
a Last Whisper slammed?
I mean, it's 80, like, Pentacle's the only one I can think of, but I know it's not the best. We've seen 7 Pentakill do really well. The emblem itself is good,
yeah,
but the trait and the chase is not like the top level thing. He's gonna get a lot on Wolves though, because we see he's pretty low on components overall. He only had, I think, 6 components. I think that's a little bit low for the lobby.
I mean, you can play obviously Pentakill and do like Pentakill Akali and those kind of boards, but I just feel like Last Whisper is not very good on her, especially in that case. You need Omnivamp, you need something to be a little bit tanky to kind of get that value, so you're staying alive to get that Pentakill proc. You're gonna play the Akali with it.
I know a lot of players, when they do slam Last Whisper, want to typically opt towards that Ezreal Caitlyn, or even opposed to the Edgelord, right? Like, a lot of the Edgelord's boards, while they definitely can utilize Last Whisper very well, would much rather have something like that Even Shroud so that you can immediately get through that front line. So it actually is a little bit more limiting than it might sound, to be honest.
I do kind of want to see like Wet Jungler's Wolves and see what he gets off of these Wolves.
Yeah,
because I'm expecting some amount of components. We saw he had a big gold start at the very beginning of the game. His 1-2, he dropped a bunch of gold. So I mean, that's going to be a big change, I think, overall, is what Wet Jungler gets there. And we saw Chaos still trying to build up that board that he had hit.
Yeah, so another cash out coming through there for Prom. It looks like he is on 5 Heartsteel, assuming that is a +1 from his Aphelios. So did just get a couple components actually popping out of that cash out, it looked like. So he's got a pretty damn good item economy. He's going into Wolves, and he has 6 components on bench, plus he already has the blue buff slam. So he's going to have like 4, potentially even 5 items to slam. So he is in such a good spot.
He can't even pick them all up.
He can't even pick it up.
Yeah, he can't pick it up.
Scrooge McDuck over there just holding all his items.
So many possibilities.
He's got to start slamming items.
Yeah, he's figuring it out. It looks like he's just gotta go through all these items, figure out exactly what you can slam. I mean, I
would start with front line. Personally, start with the front line. That one's a little easier, right?
So he already has the blue buff slam, so he's playing around this Ahri. So I like the AP items, and then you slam like Warmogs and Brambles. Yeah, Warmogs, Bramble.
You can do red buff.
Red buff. Yeah, red buff feels
red buff's
really
not
good
great on Ahri, but if you're gonna go to 9, then you can obviously have a lot of success with it at 9. But I think red buff's really good. I think Bramble's solid. I think there's some value to actually playing around Redemption and stuff against some of the AoE.
Sure. Yeah.
So I think he has a lot of options here, but I don't think you want to lose like too heavy, especially if you're gonna stick on 5 Heartsteel. Like, he's staying on Heartsteel. He does have really good augments for it that has allowed him to go deep on this loss streak without getting too low, because he is healing from his Prismatic. He has the 30 bonus health, obviously from his silver augment as well. So we'll see how long he actually wants to commit to this. But I think for sure after at least 1 more cash out, he's got to bail out.
Oh, I think he's doing 1 more and he's done. I think that's where he's at.
I was gonna say you could make 2 Titans resolves. But
you can. That is an option.
That was illegal.
You are correct. Yeah.
I don't know if that's the correct call, but I just wanted to point that out. We got our third and final augment choice in this game. It's going to be gold to be able to round this out. So very nice power level in this lobby for everyone.
All right, looking at Gears board, does find this Zed headliner. Honestly, so personally, I really do like playing around Zed as a headliner. I think he's a very flexible unit that you can use to ladder to a couple different lines, and it's pretty common for us to see players do their roll down on 8, look to play around the crowd divers or the edge lords, and then they kind of use that to just settle. And then eventually, they'll get where they're actually trying to go. I do not think he's trying to play Sojin red buff.
That's not his end game?
No, you don't like that?
I don't think so. That's my read.
But I mean, it is definitely pretty strong for now. He has a good kind of series of traits. St. Vicious, we haven't checked in on a long time, but he's already 8. He's at 96 health, has 30 gold on a 6 streak. So if he can actually keep this win going, it looks like he's going to get beaten by the Zed, I think, pretty much for
That's
sure.
a beast.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, the Zed kind of going crazy. So St. Vicious does drop around, but again, he's in such a good spot at this point. It does feel similar to what he was in last game, where he almost ended up going 7th, but it was like really close. He was down to 2 HP, almost went 7th. You know, did his level 9 roll down, didn't really hit a very good board, but was able to eventually recover it and get into a top 4. So again, it feels like he's in a really good spot. We'll have to see where he goes from there.
I think that's part of the skill expression you see in these players like Setsuko and St. Vicious, who are popularizing this fast 9, right? Because to them, there's this old adage in TFT, like 1 HP is infinite HP. That's really all you need to win a game. 2 HP, it may be very scary for the majority of players, but when you are comfortable in that fast 9 to build a board with limited resources, it can get you there.
Does that bigger shot look like he grabbed?
It looks like it is.
Which got nerfed a fair bit on this patch, but it's still pretty strong.
Good. I still think it's a pretty good augment, because I think the big shots are, well, not all the big shots, but Ezreal is very good, and I think that Jhin does have very high caps, and this can make that cap
Kaisa is also
even
a
higher.
unit.
Yeah, Kaisa is also a unit that you can play on your board.
Yeah, you get the
Snow
Jhin
quirky too.
so early as well. Feels nice.
You have to imagine what jungler was feeling pretty good about having this threat 2 in the front line that's going to buy enough time, and then it turns out front line means nothing when you're fighting a Lux.
Yeah, and we haven't seen that board really at all. So that's already a 3-star Lux. That's not a line that I've seen people play at all yet in this tournament. It is something that you'll see quite a bit on ladder. Obviously, it does have good backline access, but again, it is one of those kind of more risky styles. Going heavy into EDM, going heavy into that Lux. It has great backline access, but can you actually get further with that? And we just saw a 3-star MF as well on Chaos's board, so a lot more of these kind of 3-star 3 costs in this game.
What jungler, his next pick, nobody took it. Nobody denied him.
Just gets a free fawn?
Wow. Hit wrong.
No way.
He knew. He's like, what are these people doing? No one's taking his spat.
Oh my.
It's tough though. It's like, if you can't use the spat, you shouldn't tank your game to deny it, right? It's tough. It depends on your position in the game.
I completely agree.
And how the earlier games.
There are enough like relatively flexible spats that you can put it together, because like 3 Pentacle is a good splash trait, right? You don't even have to play that much commitment to play around that. There's the jazz that you talked about earlier. There's a lot of ways to kind of utilize it. I agree. You can't tank your game, right? If you can't use it, then
if
you
it was last patch, I super agree with you, because then you just put Jazz in, right?
Of course.
In literally every single comp.
Yeah.
But now, I don't know. It's harder. I feel like there's a lot more lines that you're not going to get huge value from it. And it's like, okay, if you're going to dig for a pentakill to try to smash in pentakill, but you don't have a pentakill carry, then you're not really getting anything from that. If it's just going to be a Yorick or whatever.
Just be Yorick.
Exactly. But then you have to get 9. You have to hit that. You have to find the chain.
Exactly. Yeah.
And we only have one more component phase, right? So I think it gets pretty risky to take a spat this late unless you have something that you already kind of have pre-planned to do it.
And with Perong having so many components from playing around the Heartsteel, spat, he can make something. He'll do something with it. He has every choice in the world to utilize. He can make it work.
Oh my God! Look at,
I mean, it's so good.
He just got 5 gold from his big gem.
And that's the thing. Like, it does suck that it's the prismatic version instead of just like the gold version, where it's like, okay, I'm not losing as much by backlining. Someone else did hit it. I think we saw. And I mean, actually, it's right here. Here's Chaos having it, but all this extra econ is helping Wet Jungler really cap out.
And especially, I do think it actually counts tentacles and like dummies. It counts like it seems to count all these extra things.
That feels like a lot of gold.
Because 5 gold there was crazy. So
We took a look at Chaos's board for a second. I know we're on Hunters right now, but Chaos has done a really good job actually of stabilizing while also being able to maintain Heartsteel deep into the game. This is one of those places where if he actually is looking to aim to go 9, he can afford a few losses still.
Okay. For a second there, I was like, is he really going to put the Lux app on?
What's he cooking right now?
I don't know if it's worth it for the attack speed, but let's see. You do have a bit of a disco board here. Karthus 2 and that headliner TF as well. So pretty strong board going up against Gear, who's done really well thus far.
Yeah, the Zed just won't go down. And oh, there's the big counter here. Zed into Karthus. Karthus will sometimes target the shadows. And that makes it so Zed hard counters the unit and is really impossible for these target boards to win when you run into the Zeds.
And Chao.Z down to 7 HP here, so not a lot of room to work with. He's got to try to turn it around. We have a couple players down to 20 HP. Braun getting pretty low, but he's sitting on 65 gold, so a much different position than those below him. Now at 74 gold, as I think we're going to see him try to recraft this board.
White Jungler in a really nice position here, actually. He's got to feel good. This headliner, Ezreal, especially with the Superfan still in, is always going to be dealing a lot of damage. Yeah, I remember he took 1 Alawi off of that carousel, which means when he does go 9, which I'm assuming is going to be 5-2, he's got a very good chance of starting this Alawi right off the bat.
You got the first one from the Recon Bob, right? And then another one off of...
that's Chaos.
That's right. So I guess he just picked up one naturally and then got the other one off the carousel. But yeah, if you hit 1 Alawi, you can stabilize at 9 really well.
Going 9 right now.
Ezreal too.
There's a roll down.
Yeah, but he's playing around this Ahri, so actually he's not...
He's considering the Thresh.
The Thresh is pretty good. Exactly.
Yeah, I like this Thresh.
Yeah, I think it's worth taking Thresh. Thresh is really strong if you do get that level 2 Thresh. If you get a mana item on him like he has Superfans, you can get multiple rounds of the hooks, and especially when people are really clumped, especially with some of these kind of like awkward positions like KDA can have, you can sometimes hook 4 or 5 units or whatever and really get them all hit where they're pretty clumped up.
This angle is not good for Chao.Z. Big hit, there is the Gunblade. Maybe he can get enough healing. Nah, it's gone.
Karthus killing a lot, but not able to take out that Lux. Definitely doesn't have the single target damage.
Yeah, Lux isn't hitting Karthus though until now.
And it's hard for Karthus to win this.
Yeah, Lux will get there.
It doesn't look like it's going to happen.
Yeah, that's going to be it for Chao.Z or Chao.Z. It's going to be out in 8. You can see the disappointment on his face in the player cam.
8-8.
Definitely a tough spot to be in. But the player's moving forward here. There's the Alawi's in a shop. Okay, that's a pretty good shop there for St. Vicious. He's doing a heavy roll down here, looking for a new headliner. Does hit a Sona, and we'll see what he wants to pick up. You know, looking for one of those 5-cost headliners, but he hasn't been able to find them, and now he's down to 4 gold. So he's going to be potentially stuck with that one.
Yeah, I was curious if he was willing to pick up any of those 4-cost headliners. Obviously, you have a 10% chance of hitting the 5-cost, but most of the time you're going to roll, you're not actually going to find the 5-cost headliner.
Didn't this happen to him last game?
Somewhat similar. I mean, he ended up picking up the Jhin as the headliner, but his front line was really bad in that game. I feel like he's in a better spot this time because his front line is way more stable, and he actually has some decent backline carries. Yes, he doesn't actually have that big headliner, but the Senna is still reasonable. This Caitlyn is still going to be doing some work, so hopefully the losses aren't going to be too bad for him.
You know what I'm going to talk about. Chaos on the other side is 50 gold. He used a Recombobulator to build a really strong board, and I want to call out, I love that he opted to play around the MF. We see so often people kind of YOLO their boards when they Recombobulator, and then they can't pick up the pieces. Keeping the solidarity of Misfortune on that 3-2 augment selection, and then playing around it while he allowed the front line to be Recombobbed was a really cool play. Love to see that out of Chaos.
Right now, looking at Little Kahuna, did have that late game specialist, has gone up to 9, able to spend that money, finds the headliner Kiana. This is one of the biggest headliners to find, has the highest cap because she's going to permanently stack that attack damage. And Bloodthirster's a pretty solid item to be putting in.
Yeah, the rest of his board though is pretty bad. It's mostly all 1-stars, right? You know, he does have 1-star Lucian, 1-star Senna, 1-star Bard, 1-star Thresh, you know, 1-star Jhin. So the rest of his board looking really weak. Yeah, he has a 2-star Echo, and then I think it was like a Cannon or something in there. But it's tough, right? You don't buy that time that your Kiana needs to get something done. And this is a position we've seen a lot of players in on this patch, I feel like, when they get to 9. It's not as easy to stabilize as it was last patch, because you could kind of just throw some garbage in there with Jazz and you were doing all right.
One of the things that's interesting about this Qiyana pick is that oftentimes we see the strength of Qiyana in buffing up the rest of your team. Cass, I know you're very passionate about this, buffing up that front line, allowing the rest of your units to do damage, but when you're just playing 6 true damage and just focusing on the Qiyana, you're kind of not getting that value anymore.
Well, and when they're all 1-stars, you're just buffing up garbage, right? Like it's a force multiplier, but it's...
So Qiyana, in my eyes, is a support unit. She's not actually a carry. So if you end up on a board like this, exactly where it's a bunch of garbage, she's not going to do anything. It's like Sona. You throw Sona on that same board, what is she doing?
Yeah.
They're all just going to die. She's not actually going to do anything. So I think I like to think about her the same
in
way.
the background while you all die.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's just like Corgi, just vibing in the ship.
All right, some roll downs happening right now.
White Jungler has a lot of gold.
Ooh. Yeah. White Jungler spot's really great. I mean, getting that fawn early is so big. Having the Tactician's Crown, having 10 units on.
Ooh,
Yeah, that was such
2
a
Canes.
free
Wow,
out.
I'm surprised he passed double Cane.
Because he's even playing around the Ezreal, right?
Yeah,
Like,
he's still playing
the
Heartsteel. Yeah, exactly. He has a set and the Ezreal on board, so I'm really surprised he passed the double Cane there.
He might have decided that, like, at least for this is his board. He doesn't actually want to change anything. He wants to upgrade. But I'm curious because there are still some, like,
drop
low-cost
KDA?
units. Yeah, exactly.
It's like,
he could just drop it.
Who cares about some of these KDA units, I feel like, at this point? I mean, if you drop out. Like, if you hit a Cane too, it's like, there's no way I think you want to play the 4 big shot over having a Cane 2.
I agree.
Right?
I agree.
I think that it's like one of those things where sometimes it's that trap where you can get caught up in chasing the traits instead of the powerful units. Like, the traits are just multipliers on your units, right?
Little Kahuna couldn't stabilize on that Qiyana, right? As you said, rest of the board, there wasn't much there. Get some Sumi spam for Little Kahuna, pour one out. There we go, goes to 7 in this game.
Players from Southeast Asia still maintaining their position on top, and there's actually quite a health gap you see between Gear, Chaos, St. Vicious, and then Wet Jungler and Prong really looking to hold on and secure top 4.
And Prong won in the last game, right? So he got first in the last game. So if he gets into a top 4 in this game, like, you pretty much are through, right? So, you know, he really is just trying to stay as stable as he can, you know, utilizing this Thresh, has double mana items on the Thresh. So you're basically hooking, you know, right as soon as that round starts. We'll see if he can actually get back onto that MF.
Ooh, doesn't hit,
not quite.
unfortunately. That's a tricky part. Thresh positioning can be very fickle, and sometimes you don't quite land on that unit.
Both units beside it, he hooked. That sucks.
It's pretty unfortunate.
This Ahri is one thing I do want to talk about. She does pretty well into a lot of the meta, right? We're seeing a lot of these Canes, we're seeing Zeds around, we're seeing, you know, Kianas, and into melee carries, Ahri absolutely dumpsters them, right? She throws 2 charms, they're dead. Cane just disappears. So it's all a positioning game around the Ahri, and even though she's a 4-cost, she can cap out higher than a lot of those 5-cost boards if it's the right 5-cost board that she's playing up against, right? She's not going to do as well into the Jins or Sonas or the backline ones. The frontline ones, she destroys them.
I mean, it's tough, right? Because you talk about how a champion like Cane can get burst down, but at the same time, you want to be playing same side as the Ahri because you want your Cane to get backline to be able to get access to that Ahri, right? So you have to have good enough frontline, and kind of almost in a lot of the situations, it feels like play your Cane 1 hex back and have that frontline by the time that hopefully your Cane can get through and get onto the Ahri and take it out.
Roll down here from Gear.
Oh,
finds the Qiyana, true damage. That's got to feel really
And that's
good.
4 true damage.
Oh, yeah.
So that's really, really nice because he already had a couple of them in there.
And he also has a kind of a real board to go with this. It's still 1-star, but, well, okay, not anymore. The Akali is going to be massive, but having the Ziggs and the Sona in the backline and then starting to build frontline, this is a massive board.
This is huge. You had the hyper pop in there too from the Lulu.
I feel like you gotta drop
but it was so
Superfan
easy
now.
to like take it
I think
out.
Superfan should be out. Yeah,
he has 2 Yorks on his bench. He has some strong units on his bench. I don't think Superfan is worth it at this point. Yeah, you do get 1 item on your Qiyana. That's gonna be nice, but I just don't know if it's worthwhile at this point.
And as you can see, Piron going up against Wet Jungler. The Alawi has the Ahri stuck for a while. That's kind of best case, but now that it's gone, the Ahri's just blowing everything up. It's not enough though. Jin, now it's been upgraded Jin 2 with the full bench empty. He's got the blue buff. It's not an insane amount of damage, but it's really good supportive damage on top of the
And with the big gem, right? He procs the Ascension. It bought enough time that it is going to start doing some serious damage.
And it's 4 big shot as well, right? That's the 4 big shot board.
Did he? I think he dropped it, right?
Wait, did he drop 4 big shot?
I'm not certain.
We'll
it's hard for me to
see
see.
it. We'll see it. But Ascension is the best thing. It's like one of the best Jin augments. And the fact that you get it in an item and you don't actually have to
either
pick
the best
Ascension.
or you just die before procs and you're just
exactly. But
turns out my Lilia 1, Kennen 1 front line didn't buy the time I needed.
Shocking.
wild how that works.
Look at those Sona items, by the way, and a Sona pair in shop. If he can actually hit a Sona too, that would be crazy.
Yeah, Saint can eliminate Farong here, but the Lucian's having a kind of tough time punching through. Second cast a lot better because you've already done the shred on the first cast, but Ari gets the target. It's not enough though.
Wow, yeah.
Saint's gonna say, get the kill off there on Farong. First fifth still works out pretty well though.
And Saint does lock the shop, so he wants that Sona pair. I was wondering if he was going to sell I think it was a set pair, so he could have sold one of the sets and maybe just not lock, but he does elect to go for the lock. And yeah, still waiting to see, like, is Superfan going to get taken out? You know, digging for the Ziggs 2, digging for that Yorick 2, trying to see if he can cap out the support higher, and now electing to get rid of the Ziggs. I think that's the right choice, because at this point, honestly, who cares about the Ziggs 2 if it has no items? Like, if you're not going to swap out of the Ahri, then I don't think it really matters, so isn't going to actually end up upgrading his board whatsoever. But Superfan this late just feels so low value, because the individual units are so weak.
Now Chaos is running this 4 big shot with the Misfortune 3, still on Alawi 1 though.
On the Kane, double healing though. That's the big thing that we've been seeing. But you got the Lucian just pumping away, getting all that shred, and actually just takes it out. So it's up to this MF3 to try and do more. But this Lucian's actually surprising me a lot. I have not liked this as a headliner. I'm not like playing carry Lucian. I think he's again a more supportive unit with the shred, but yeah, he's getting taken out.
2 first place. Is that what you said?
He's setting the stage, everybody. He wants you to believe in the rest of these people.
There's not 2 more games left.
All right, I misread the script. It's fine. It's
There was a typo in there, obviously.
Yeah.
The stage is still being set up. Right?
Still top 4, so
it's round
he's in
2
there.
that I'm thinking of. That's when he's going 1-1-1. This whole thing is a ploy.
It's all the long con.
Well, we got our top 3 locked in for the second game. So it's going to be Wet Jungler, Gear, and Vicious that are going to have an opportunity to walk away with this first place. And these boards are starting to look mighty strong.
Yeah, we just saw Yorick 2 get added to that board with the Kiana with the blue buff, the headliner. I mean, that's the one I'm looking at. That has the potential to continue to cap out the highest, but you're still missing some pieces, right? Still playing that Ahri alongside this Sona 1 with no items. I guess, is that against you? Yeah, that will be able to help out the Sona a bit.
Saint has been so rich and hasn't actually been able to 2-star a lot of his stuff, so I feel like he's been a little bit unlucky with it. Hasn't really been able to pick up many of these Sonas, but his board also has quite a lot of room to grow, because with those items on Sona, if you hit Sona 2, that is a massive spike.
Absolutely, yeah. Looking at Wet Jungler's board, he's playing such a wide board, mainly because he was able to pick up that bomb from stage 4 carousel, really swung the game in his favor.
Oh my god, so much gold.
Yeah, that is crazy. That's
and he's getting the second row it, and it's still procking because he has so much front line.
So much damage coming out too.
Feels like Gear's been pretty unhappy with the general state of the board and has been making a couple changes here and there, but at this point actually looks very strong. Feels like it's finally landed in a very good place.
I mean, the only thing you'd obviously want to change, I still think, is if you can get like Superfan out, if you can get like a Ziggs 2 or something, but he's been passing those Ziggs, he hasn't been picking them up, so he's clearly not planning on taking out the Ahri. I think he feels like he just wants that single target damage. He's got a lot of support here, and honestly a lot of damage dealers, so he kind of just needs to buy time, because you got Kane 2, you've got Kiana 2, you've got a Yorick 2, you've got a Sona 2, like you have so many strong units on this board.
We talked earlier about Kiana being this support unit. To be honest, having the Bloodthirster on the Kiana just to beef up the rest of your upgraded teams may be worth it. Like, there's a lot of boards that don't actually cap out with Superfan in the end game, but having that Kiana last for so long might actually be worth it.
I mean, the big thing though is like you want Alawi, but she was out of the pool. Like you want more frontline to kind of supplement with this, and it's just you can't hit it. So maybe this is the next best thing because you can't actually get to the units you want. And I could see the Bloodthirster working, but you get to the point where you have so many items. Just put a third item on. You're playing
true.
You're gonna have so much extra items that you don't need to put on other people because she's gonna make them better items than what you can make.
We've got our final 2 now for this second
There's the Sona
game.
2, and he's on Ziggs pair
I mean, that's
as well.
big. That might be.
He's on Ziggs pair, he's on Yorick pair, he's on Bard pair, he's on Set pair. Does he even have an MF in? I think, he's on MF pair as well. So he actually has 5 pairs, I think. These gloves I always feel like is a really nice hit this late, especially if you can get, but actually he has items on like everything.
He has no room, because he's got bulk, so he's just like spreading it all out.
Yeah, no, which is definitely not a misplay by any means, but it always feels so nice if you can get like a 2-star 5 cost and just slam with these gloves on a Yorick or something late game. It always feels like incredible value. There's a 2-star Ziggs in shop for Saint, and he's got to decide, is it worth me selling the Yorick to actually hit this right now? And I would say no, because he has an extra life. Yeah, so I think you just wait.
It's hard to tell sometimes. I think it depends on whether you think your opponent can spike in the time it takes you to lock that shot, right? This is stage 7, so much damage can be dealt. But even within stage 7, 34 HP, the same bitch has got an extra life.
Yeah, exactly. He has an extra life. And I just think you have to consider, can you actually win without the UR2? And if your read is you can't win without the UR2, and I think that's correct, then you should never be selling it anyway for a spike on this round, right? So, like, he's already top 2. He's already in a really good spot. He's basically secured himself advancing as long as nothing catastrophic happens. But if he can get the Ziggs too, if he can get a Yorick in there, then he has a chance to actually get first place. Otherwise, I think we're going to see Gear clean it up.
Well, and the thing is as more rounds go, I mean, Gear's Kiana's just getting stronger, right? This is just infinite scaling AD, and she scales so much. You saw in that fight, she created like 8 items. So, like, you know, that's 40 AD.
That's a lot.
Like, that's kind of a lot of damage that she's now
mid-round,
more
like 600 stack Heartsteel cash out.
I mean, it's pretty tough for Saint to actually chase this down and beat it when you're playing against that Kiana.
I will say, because it is the last fight, there's actually no way to hit both the Yorick and the Ziggs. You kind of have to choose, right? Because you're not going to have an opportunity to find the Yorick in shot because you blocked. So we have to hope that the Ziggs is able to cap out his board high enough, and it does not really look like it, unfortunately. No, too much. This Kiana headliner is so strong, able to buff up so much of that team. And yeah, ultimately, here, take the game.
I mean, played out a really good game. Also, was able to get all these luxury units in there, had all the 2-star 5 costs in to support. And it wasn't just, we've seen a lot of Kiana's hit, but they don't have the supporting units. He had a 2-star Stone, a 2-star Ari, 2-star Yor, 2-star Kane. Like, he had everything in there that you would want to be able to buy the time to make the most of all these extra items that you're farming and to really ramp up that damage. So another really well played game here. Pretty close down to the end. Saint had some risky moments in the first one. This second game I felt like was a lot more kind of smooth and in control. And as a result, it should be in a great spot in this group to advance.
Oh, it was a really great game to watch, and especially looking at both of the SEA players, I feel like that second augment that they took was really important as well, to make sure that they had enough health to be able to make that transition to the mid game and to be able to get to the late game without having taken too much damage. So very well played, and also just a great game coming out from St. Vicious as well.
Yeah, I think Saint, I mean, I was saying it earlier, right? This is someone that I felt was in really good form coming into this event. I actually picked him for my fantasy team. I went over to the co-stream.
When did you pick him?
I picked him second or third.
Okay,
yeah,
third overall.
No. My third, like second or third pick, yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, because I went Pocky after
That's high praise.
Oh my goodness, I love you. That's fantastic. I love this pick. He's a great third pick. Listen, Saint.
I like how you were really doubting until you heard who you picked before.
No inspired confidence.
Oh, Saint third. Oh, Pocky Nappies. Okay.
Saint is one of those players, he's been in the scene for so long, right? He's just loved TFT, but it actually has taken him quite a while to find success. And I feel like it's so fitting that going into set 10, seeing him here on the main stage in LAN, it's the perfect setting for someone like St. Vicious to actually find an edge on the competition.
I've seen some of these highlights. Another pretty close game. I mean, it's been really interesting watching kind of the development so far. It does feel like what we have somewhat settled on is that almost everyone, unless you're in a really good position, has to stop at 8, has to try to stabilize their board, get some 4 costs in, and use that to kind of springboard yourself to 9, where we're seeing almost always the boards that are actually getting that first place finish are those fully capped level 9 boards with all the 5 costs. But you can't just kind of skip those steps in the middle that you used to be able to in the previous patch.
I think that's the important distinction, right? Because people talked a lot about in the previous patch how you did kind of just skip level 8. And Fast 9 obviously is a viable strategy, and you cap out and win the game. The difference that we're seeing in this patch, though, is that it's important to play level 8 correctly.
You can see how flexible these boards are, though, right? It's not really just one strategy that has to get you to that end game. You have so many different traits that you can tech in order to make sure that you're strong enough, or maybe you're trying to look for that loss streak in order to get that sort of econ, but you're eventually looking at the right end game, but it just in so many different ways.
Yeah, and level 9 is super modular. We've actually seen Saint having to flex this the most because he's not hitting the best headliners. So we see him play Jhin, and then we see him play around the Lucian, which not many people are playing around the Lucian, but he found the spot for it, and he recognized that, hey, I'm not hitting the things I want. How can I craft a board that's still going to get me there?
And I think in that way, you have to give him a lot of credit for these high finishes, despite the fact that, he got 9, he got there with a lot of gold in both games, and he didn't actually get that kind of hit that you want, right? He didn't have that dream scenario of hitting the instant Kiana chosen or hitting that instant Alawi chosen or York or whatever, right? But he has been able to still make it work.
I love that you brought up the level 9 board being modular. One of the things that we're seeing less this patch is the rise of Jazz. You talked about it during the game, but I don't remember exactly when St. Vicious was able to secure that Jazz path, but being able to play for Jazz on 9, obviously it's not going to be as strong as it was last patch, but when you're talking about modular gameplay and building compositions that have different strengths, it's such an important way to play the game.
And I think one of the really underrated things about Jazz is people focus so much, I think, on the damage, but forget about all the HP that you're getting, right? Which really does beef up your front lines, because we've seen so many people with strong carries not be able to build the kind of front lines that they need. And I think that is one of the really tough things, especially when you're trying to push past 8, not spend too much gold, and then go 9. If you don't already have 4-cost frontliners that are 2-starred, then all of a sudden you're rolling heavy for a 5-cost headliner. That costs 15 gold. That's not even counting all the rolls it's going to take to get there. Then all of a sudden, even if they hit their headliner, they're broke. They can't actually afford the gold it would cost to get anything reasonable in the front line.
Well, and it's extra important because when you look at the really good headliner carries at 5 cost, Sona needs to have a board that stays alive so you can actually cast and get value out of the attack speed. Jin, to a lesser degree, but also needs that front line to stay alive to actually hit the scenario where he is a very good unit. Kiana, I've said it multiple times, she's a support unit. She's not the main carry, right? She's trying to spread out items across your whole team, make them strong. You need time to do that. All of these late games, Ziggs infinitely scales, right? Like, that is the big thing with all these 5 classes. You need time to get there.
It's already been such an intense day of competition, and we are seeing such a huge development as we look across these first few games that we've had, but we still have more to come. So we're going to take a short break, and when we come back, we've got the third and final game of this second heat to see who's making our top 256.
I'm really happy to play against the Chinese players. I'm like, they are really, really good, and it's gonna be a pleasure to play against them. But even the NA players that I'm a huge fan, like Soju, it's like a person that I used to watch a lot. So it was a really pleasure to me. And some comps to be strong at this tournament. I think Yone and Zed can be the most impressive comps right now.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back. We are well on our way through day number 1 of our competition here at the TFT Vegas Open, but I'm very excited to be welcoming in a special guest to our broadcast. We got Asa. How are you?
Hi, I'm doing great. I played in the first heat, and I made it to the day 1, part 2, so I'm pretty happy.
Woo! Well, thank you for taking some of your break time to come join us on the desk. How has your experience been so far playing?
Oh, it's been awesome. Like the pre-party yesterday and just seeing everyone from all over the world here is just really cool.
It's been awesome to be able to see not only you compete, but like how about just being in the same room as some of the people that like you've competed with online?
Yeah, it's cool to compete in person, and just like a lot of the NA players were all friends, and then meeting some of the players from overseas is also great. Like when I was walking here, I met someone from Czech Republic, and it's just cool that they're flying all the way out here. I probably wouldn't go if there's a tournament in Europe, but
but they get to come see you.
I know we talked a little before the event. You talked about how nerves can sometimes get to you, but now that you've been in the venue, you had your set of games. How do you feel you're actually, switching over to the LAN environment?
I'm still definitely a little nervous, but hopefully I'll be able to perform in my next games.
Yeah, we've seen a lot of different meta across like the stage games as I've been walking around. I was wondering, were you seeing anything interesting in the games that you played that was maybe something you didn't expect, or even if it was what you expected, just kind of the meta that you saw in your round?
I think I talked to a lot of different people, and I think a lot of the lobbies were playing very differently. My lobby had a lot of people like going fast 9, but I heard some of the other lobbies were a lot more aggressive.
That's really interesting to see, because I feel like in this lobby in particular, we've seen a lot of fast 9. Like that feels like that has to be the tempo that you need to go for. Just make sure that you're trying to play to some of those stronger boards and make sure you can hit those higher cost units. But we'll have to see if that stays. And don't release too much of your tech, because I know you still have to play a little bit later. But yeah, I'm pumped to see what's going to happen in this next game. It's been tough competition so far.
Yeah, I mean, the big thing that's impressed me out of this group so far has actually just been SEA. The 2 SEA players, Chaos and Farong, have been absolutely popping off in this lobby, and it's been completely, a shock that they've, had such a good performance in what was a very stacked lobby with Wet Jungler and St. Vicious.
Yeah, going into game 3 too, this is the inflection point, right? Because you've got one game left to make your way into the top cub, top 256, correct? I think somewhere around there. So for all these players that are sitting on the bubble, usually we kind of see this culminate throughout the day, and 5 games in, we'll see how it all plays out. But this is a really important moment for so many of those players that are going to be sitting on the bubble with one chance left.
Yeah, I think game 3 has a really interesting dynamic, because there's certain players who have to play for like exactly first or exactly first or second, and then it really changes the lobby tempo.
And it's weird because it's so isolated, because we usually do get a chance to have more games in order to actually get to that point where, oh gosh, like 2 games left, like now is really time to push the pedal to the metal, but it's the last one for this heat.
All right, look at them all getting ready. I know we have multiple players that can make it into that top 4. I think we probably have 5 or 6 people that are live, maybe even more than that, because of how close this has been across the board. So this is a big pedal to the metal moment. This is kind of the last chance, right? You got to leave it all out here on the stage. Try and lock in your spot for round 2.
Portal selection coming in. Let's see what we've got.
Ooh.
Good anvil.
Okay. Well, we got 2 3-cost champion portals to kick off games 1 and 2, but component anvil, that is interesting.
Yeah, I think I've seen a lot of the people vote for some of the more normal ones, so they can just play TFT in a competitive environment. I had Showtime show up, but only one person who couldn't qualify anymore voted for it, and everyone else voted for something pretty normal like this.
That's not fun. Showtime is fun. Okay, in my lobbies, it's fun, all right?
I vote for it on ladder.
Yeah, vote for it on ladder. Yeah.
Okay.
Have fun with the game. It's fun.
So St. Vicious gets this double 3-cost drop off that initial orb. He gets the MF and the Urgot. Opts to sell the MF so he can pick up the 1 cost, but then keep the Urgot. This is something I think, even dating back to the early parts of TFT, people talked about how the 3-cost orb drops sometimes can be a little bit of a bait, but what they really do, especially with headliners in the game, is they can really help you get direction in stage 2 and 3.
I think one of the big things as well is because this is the item anvil, Urgot I think does gain a lot of value as a drop, because if you find a flexible enough item to play around the Urgot early, that can just be your stage 2 win out. He is one of those 3 costs that is strong enough to make that happen.
Yeah, I think Urgot is the strongest stage 2 3 cost you can get. So I'm pretty happy for Saint. I've been doing a lot of studying with him, so I'm rooting for him.
So you think, I was gonna say, like, what's your familiarity with the players in this lobby, and who you feel like has the best shot of getting that top 4 there?
I'm really only very familiar with Saint. I've seen a lot of these other names before, but I'm not super familiar with them.
Well, how do you know that Saint's been doing really well in these first 2 games?
Yeah, I saw.
All right,
happy for him.
Pops the anvil, got lots of options. Ends up going with the Death Blade, all right? And immediately takes the iron assets as well. Lots of itemization coming out of Saint on this stage 2.
I mean, really just looking for a good way to play around the Urgot, as we were talking about, right? Deathblade is a pretty solid item to slam early on. Didn't find, like, red buff, I think, would be maybe the best thing that he could have seen just because of how flexible it is, but Deathblade works out, and we saw him playing around AD quite a bit already anyways.
So I was looking at his item components there and the things that came out of the anvil. What I was noticing was there's not a lot of frontline options there. He had the belt on bench, but no frontline components could have maybe slammed the redemption with taking the tier. Instead, uses the glove, takes it to another one, and wants to play around a tempo Thieves Gloves frontline.
Yeah, I like that play. They gave him a frontline item, and then Thieves Gloves gives HP as well, so.
Asa, I know you are you're a proponent of the idea in TFT, you build what you're missing, right? You play what you're missing because you just want to have a balanced board. I talked to one of your students from your TFT coaching site not too long ago who said that it's a really fundamental way of learning the game, and they really appreciated that insight. So I imagine looking at that play the Saint made that it feels kind of aligned with your framework.
No, I like it a lot. One thing I was looking at that he could have made was a 3-item Urgot. Like, he could have made like a Sterex with a Last Whisper or a Hodge with a glove, but then he has his 3 carry items, and then if he gets dropped anymore on Krugs, it's hard to use them.
It'd be tough. He actually finds a loss there in stage 2 on 2-2, which is a little bit surprising with the slams, but running into an Annie and a Kennen that ended up just being, the upgraded units being a bit too powerful. So we see another upgraded Kennen here, Wet Jungler, has actually slammed Ionic Spark, and I guess I've been seeing a decent amount of tempo Ionic Sparks nowadays because people don't necessarily want to have to play Ziggs in the late game, and it still gives them the shred later on while being a really solid tempo item for stage 2.
I was gonna say, that's new.
Yeah,
I feel like I remember seeing a lot of Ionic Sparks slams like maybe last set or so or towards the beginning, but yeah, this is definitely a new tempo.
St. Vicious did have that Heartsteel Cassandre in the last round, but did not have Heartsteel active. This time around, though, finds the Yone in his shop, has the Heartsteel on 2-2, and you have to imagine that feels pretty good.
Yeah, Hearthstone 2-2, he's got the Urgot as well, so we were literally just talking about this in the last game, like, win streaking with Heartsteel on stage 2 feels great as long as you're setting up to play the 5 Heartsteel and then lose streak after that on stage 3, or even later, right? It's okay to have it go as late as possible. If you're winning, you're winning. We take those, and then finally you have all that extra HP to lose at the latest amount of time possible and get the better cash out.
Yeah, definitely want to be winning rounds right now to save HP. If you lose, you can make maybe an extra 2 to 4 gold from your Heartsteel cash out, but it's not worth the HP.
I've seen a few players actually look for Heartsteel for win streaks, which I think is a really unique take on it, because I know we've talked about this quite a few times now on the broadcast, but it's more of like noticing that it could be a very strong spot for you to tech in something like 5-7 Heartsteel super early, and then you still have that strength.
Yeah, and I wanted to point out real quick, because we were on Farong's board. I actually misspoke earlier. I said the 2 SEA players. I said Farong and Chaos, but it was Gear and Chaos that were really popping off for SEA. But Farong also, a Korean player that's done well. I actually think this was one of the ones that Bebe said was a student of his. He's someone he had coached in the past. So a very solid player. We see him playing really unique lines, playing very not Bebe-esque, though, I would say. He's not really just pushing levels. He stayed on that core key for so long, right, and playing a lot of more greedy lines trying to play for that fast 9, and we saw him go 1st and 5th with that play, kind of reminiscent of Setsuko's first heat.
Yeah, he's playing all his tank items together, so it's stronger earlier in the game, but if he gets dropped any chains or cloaks, it's going to be really hard to use them effectively. Yeah, but he's getting the tempo from it now.
Talking about it being a student of Bebe, I do feel like even looking at that board felt like a very tempo-heavy board playing around the blistering strikes. On that carousel in stage 2, we see Lil Kahuna taking the span. I believe that was on a set, correct?
Yeah, it looks like that is a set that Lil Kahuna is holding on to there with the spatula, holding on to Set's big, strong arms. We love to see it.
So that's how he gets his workout in.
Yeah.
He gets the workout in by holding the spatula.
Yeah, he's
like,
lifting up
the
spatula and Little Kahuna. One on each arm.
There you go.
And he's just lifting them up. Bicep curls.
What emblem does that make?
the bicep curls with the spatula make? I don't know.
We'll get back to you on that one in like set 15.
Do you think the river sprite or the spatula is heavier?
Ooh, wait. Okay.
Question. Got to be spatula. River sprite looks completely weightless, right?
Water can be heavy though.
Water's pretty heavy.
Water's heavy.
Have you tried to pick up like
you
a
convinced
5
me.
gallon
No, yeah,
mug?
I get it. Water weighs a lot. Okay, you're all right.
But how big is the Sprite now? How much health are you talking?
Now you're asking the real question.
That's math
Yeah, I
I
guess it
don't want to do
depends.
on
Like, is it
broadcast.
normal River Sprite? Is it Tiny Titans River Sprite? Get
it
being
Boba
resized. Is he on a big win streak when you have to lift him up? Right. That's the big question.
Yeah. Question for another day. Take a look at this board, though. Yeah, it's the Corky Believer. It's not
You
the
have a Corky. I love to see the Corky in the other stages.
All right, Asa, come on. What's your take on this? Corky.
I think Corky's one of the strongest backline carries you can get at the 1 cost. I actually think he's the best one, generically.
Okay, but the contentious topic was keeping the Corky headliner until stage 4 and playing it on stage 4. I know it's entirely based on the spot. There's a lot of different factors. But like, what's your immediate take on like someone playing that on their board in stage 4?
I think if their board is stable, it's a cheap unit that you can like conserve your econ. It only costs 3 gold, and then on 4-2, if you can go level 8 and replace it with a 4 cost, then it's good.
All right, great.
That's it.
You bring up a good point there, right? When you're talking about cheap units, one of the things to consider, especially in set 10 where we have the headliner unit, you're not just paying for the cost of your unit, you essentially have to pay money to pivot, right? Every role, every unit that you buy, it doesn't come free. And so being able to play a unit that can last you a long time does actually have a lot of value.
Yeah, every time you buy a 2 or 3 cost headliner and you change it, you buy it, for example, for a 2 cost, you buy it for 6 and you sell it for 5, so you lose 1 gold. Also, let's say you have a 3 cost headliner, that's 9 gold compared to a 3 gold Corky. 6 gold is half of an interest per round that you could be using.
This headliner Casante's been putting in a lot of work here for St. Vicious. I feel like that's something that I don't see every day.
So Casante, actually, it was this patch that Casante, he got buffs on, I believe it was the mana and damage, right? Which were 2 massive things for him because he was already pretty tanky, but he couldn't get enough casts off. And by getting multiple casts around, because it's so much damage reduction, he's absolutely insane. And now the damage, he already did a lot of damage. He just sometimes would die during his first cast. Now that he's getting multiple casts, he's actually just taking out units in the front line. He's an absolute beast in the early game.
Yeah, I'd also like to point out that talking about saving gold, St. Vicious didn't pick up a Yone pair that he had in his shop because having that extra 3 gold to make econ goes a long way.
He finds the set from one of his orbs, which just means that if he does find Napelio, he's going to have a very easy time playing 5 Heartsteel in stage 3. Have to keep an eye on that. And I do want to call out, just taking stock of the lobby, and I want to double check this with the graphics, but I believe nobody actually full streaks in any direction, right? We've got uneven streaks across the board, so nobody is going to have a gigantic advantage on the econ. Although, as I say that, we do see Hunt is there. 48 gold, right?
That's a lot of gold. Chaos is sitting on what, 57 right now?
Yeah, Chaos, but Chaos is on level 5. Hunt's also on level 5. So we have a couple players that stayed on 5, and they're at that 50 econ point. But it's usually a lot of times at 3-1, we'll see maybe 4, 5 players in the lobby who've made it to 50 gold. Here it's only 2, and that's a little bit more rare.
Yeah, he's got the silver spoon, so it saved him effectively 10 gold to this point.
Super nice for an early level 6.
All right, up against St. Vicious's board. Does have 3 Heartsteel in
Urgot's doing a great job of killing units, and this is one of the things about Stage 3. You can take the win, right? But the good thing about having this Urgot is you're basically always guaranteed to kill something. So if you are loose streaking, you're not going to get 5 or 6-0'd every single fight. And if you're winning, you're preserving HP while building up your economy.
Huntez also slammed the Last Whisper with an open bow instead of red buff, so he's probably going to try to commit to the Misfortune.
Interesting.
Got another augment choice to see whether or not that'll help.
Silvers, where am I recombobulating?
I know, right?
I'm just looking for recombobs because we've seen a couple great ones today already.
I see a couple late game specialists. I believe one was already taken, and then we've seen the top right-hand corner was actually re-rolled.
Yeah.
Probably the spot did not fit for going for a fast 9.
Yeah, he doesn't look too happy thinking about these augments.
Well, it's what? Sticks and Stones, Healing Orbs, and Cybernetic Uplink. Sticks and Stones usually has not been great because a lot of times you're already building or you're playing units that give you the shred. Uplink's been pretty okay, though, as a pick, so I'm a little surprised to see Uplink being kind of frowned at.
All right, we're looking at Chaos's board, who does have this Chosen Corki with the country. This is a really cool board because it allows you to play the big shot for free, right? You don't need a supporting unit, and when you have that country in, you're going to get some additional front line because you know Corki's going to be able to output enough damage for this stage of the game.
And I mean, with these items, you actually could fully go into the country line, right? We do have the Last Whisper, the IE, that's perfect for Samira. So I wonder if we'll see Chaos go to 7 and then actually just send it and play country because he has a decent spot already with the items and he's got a couple of units in play.
Yeah, those items are perfect on Samira. Her ability scales with how much crit she has. Very unique champion, so with the Infinity Edge and the Last Whisper both giving crit is perfect, and he already has a lot of the country units.
All right, we didn't have any of the streakers in stage 2, but we do have 2 right now. Lil Kahuna and Chow.Z both contesting a win streak. We'll have to see when they actually do go head-to-head, see which one can sustain, because being able to streak all the way through stage 3 is one of the things that allows you to do that fast 8 and then potentially ladder for a fast 9.
Look at Gear 2. Has the 4 Guardian in it. I love the Amumu headliner. I feel like Amumu has just been such a strong unit to play around in the front line, and so I kind of wonder like where you feel like that board could go.
Well, so he's already found the Twisted Fate. He has pretty decent items there. But the items that are slammed are really good for Sona. So it does kind of want to find a way to get that intermediate forward where he can make it to level 9 and play around Sona. Because we saw maybe in the first game, Bryce was talking about, oh, he's got, you know, Shojin and Ginsu. That's not so good at level 8, but it's incredible at level 9. It's great in the early game, and it's kind of that same situation. But fortunately, level 6 hitting a Twisted Fate, that should help ladder pretty easily.
That is quite nice.
Looks like we have 3 different players playing their Corkis until stage 4, probably.
It's the tech.
Hey, it's the tech.
It's the
Bryce,
tech.
Bryce said it was bad. I said, is it bad or is it tech? And it seems like at this point, in this lobby, it has become tech. Kerrang started it, and everyone's like, wait, that Corki on stage 4 looks kind of good. I think I might keep it.
Such a great line, by the way. I love that. Is it bad or is it just tech? That's definitely just tech.
Oh, I love it.
Nothing too spicy off this carousel, to be honest. Didn't get to see what the 4 cost. Looks like a Blitzcrank there. Not sure where the other one was. So it doesn't look like anyone's making their board off of what they're picking up at the stage 3 carousel.
Lil Kahuna got a Corki.
Yeah, it's Corki watch here. We got to see where the Corkis end up.
Yeah,
Lil Kahuna goes 7. So does St. Vicious, Chaos as well.
Hey.
Huntez wants to maintain. Or excuse me, this is it says Huntez on a 6 loss streak right now, but what is his HP total? Oh, he took Tiny Titan.
Yeah, he's got Tiny Titan there. This board does not, he's huge. He's got a lot of HP.
Very heavy water spray
exactly.
Right there.
Perfect.
Yeah, I think because he's already 6 lost, this board will probably kill some units. He's not too worried to roll, even with Misfortune pair, Cannon pair.
So, actually, how do you feel about this Misfortune line after kind of the nerfs to Jazz, nerfs to Super Bands? There's just been like a lot of nerfs across the board. And this does feel like a spot where he could commit to the reroll of this line. Do you like the reroll Misfortune still on this patch, or do you feel like it's fallen too much and it just won't get the job done?
I think it's still good. You want to reroll when you think other people are going to reroll other 3 costs because they'll take your misses out of the pool. So if I forgot who was.
Right here. There you go.
The devil.
Chaos was going to reroll Samira potentially, then that could be mutually beneficial for them to both reroll Samira and Misfortune. I don't know how their playstyles are, because some players just prefer to tempo out of those 2-star upgrades into a level 8 or level 9 board, and some players prefer to reroll, so we'll see where they go with it.
Even just looking at the bench, it doesn't look like Chaos is zoning in on the Samira, right? He is holding some of these pentakills and also holding the Akali there, so it looks just from a glance that he wants to be flexible. So
yeah,
depending on how much he rolls on 7, or if he rolls on 7 at all, or just tries to go for a fast 8, well, I think we'll find out.
I think he's going to do the thing we were talking about earlier, where he'll level to 8 on 4-2 and then sell this Corki and look for a 4-cost headliner.
Seems good. It makes sense. Corki once again just chilling in his spaceship, going to level 8. I mean, we've seen this now a few times in this lobby, multiple players going for it. I think we'll probably see more and more people do this because it is working quite well. It's not like the lobby tempo has been too slow in these. Ooh. There's 3 Katarinas, I mean 6 Katarinas, but there's no items for her, so it feels like a big bait in that shop right there.
Yeah, you could take it. You would lose 1 gold since it costs 6 to make and sell it for 5. You could take it for a stronger board for 1 round, but we'll see. Some players prefer to go for it, some players don't.
Hear me out.
Okay.
Is it a bait or is it just tech?
It's a bait.
There's no debate on that one. It actually is just bait.
No debate, it's just bait. Yeah, exactly.
All right,
thank you,
good
Nick.
line.
Yeah,
that one's for free.
Wow, you see that Chaos suddenly gets dropped a lot of AP items. Okay, if that is
wasn't
swing. Yeah, right, you're right.
The Katarina.
It was just tech, I knew it.
It looks like both of them are choosing to level up instead of rerolling.
That makes a lot of sense, though, because we have seen a lot of players in this lobby want to level up, maybe try to see if they can make a stronger board, and then immediately try to go to level 9 as quickly as they can.
Well, good play right now if he wants to try and break his streak. Continuing to roll, really interesting decision from Hunted. Does find that Zed. Able to get that on the board.
Fun.
He was playing around 80 items. He actually has a Bloodthirster on the bench if he wants to slam it, which we do see him go for. So a decent setup already. He can potentially go into Kane if he finds 1 more healing item, even though, you know, the Last Whisper isn't doing anything there. It's still strong enough if he finds 2 healing that I think it could work, and he's got a Rod on the bench that can kind of make its way onto that. But it's not the only option, right, with the BT Last Whisper. He's still got potential outs at level 9 or even at level 8 playing around just some of these kind of melee carries.
I think it's likely he'll play around both of them. Yone is a crowd diver and an edgelord, so it kind of links playing the Kane and the Zed together.
And we got our final augment selection. Same with the snap pick. Couldn't quite figure out what that was. I don't know if anyone else saw that.
I didn't catch it, but I'm sure we'll get a chance to spy it later on. Inspiring Epitaph is an option. Chaos decided not to reroll. If he had rerolled Samira, he was actually offered Threeza Crowd, which would have been a massive high roll following that. But you know, what are you gonna do, right? He had a good spot to go 8.
All right, roll down here from Chaos does. He did get those AD items, does not opt for the Carthage instead. Finds his Kali. I imagine probably willing to play this at least for right now, right? You got the 80 items. You still, I don't know if you're quite out of the woods yet on level 8 yet though, right? Your board doesn't quite support this Akali yet. So imagine you're probably gonna roll maybe 4 or 5 to figure out how to get this board put together.
I think this Akali is by far the best headliner he could have hit here, so.
You took out the Vi too, just make sure you can tech in the right traits.
Absolutely. He was able to get in pentakill, right? And that was kind of the big thing that he wants to pair with his Kali, at least for the time being, until he can maybe go vertical KDA or play for true damage. There's a couple different options that you can go for.
It's a nice win, too.
It's good enough for now, that's for sure.
Chow is playing the Corki into stage 5.
Is that the new tech now?
Yeah, Corki all the way.
Yeah.
But he probably just didn't have enough gold, so he'll probably level to 8 on core 5 and then sell the Corki.
What jungler maintaining a 6 streak going into stage 4, 87 HP, level 8, 30 gold. This is looking like maybe a fast 8. I'm not sure if he's gonna ride this, or fast 9, excuse me. I'm not sure if he's gonna ride this all the way or if he's gonna try and roll on 8 to kind of ladder his way to 9.
So Bryce spoke of the terrors of putting an item on a Senna 1 and how strong it can be, you know, with true damage right now. And he's got the front line to support it. So because it's red buff and Senna's already, you know, pretty strong as a unit, there's that additional just guaranteed damage coming from the red. You can kind of push through. Well, that front line is just so massive that Web Jungler is able to find all these wins.
Chow leveled off interval here. It was a pretty unusual play, but I guess he valued spiking his board on this stage rather than taking potentially another 15 HP loss with the Corki.
Does find the headliner Ezreal, however, it is a hard skill variation, so certainly good enough for right now. I'm curious to see if he carries this all the way through the rest of the game.
Huh.
You know, we talked about Pyrong being in a good spot going into this final game, however, in a pretty dicey spot, and I'm not exactly sure if going 8th is going to be enough.
Well, yeah, it was 1-5, right? So he actually does kind of need to make it towards the top half of players to get in. I mean, the 5 is not horrible, and the first kind of would offset an 8th, but because it's a 5th, an 8th is just way too, like, he cannot go there, right? 7th or 6th, maybe he sneaks in, but 8th is not going to make it happen.
He's got the EDM. It's kind of one of the main traits that's on his board right now, and I just do wonder if that's going to end up being enough. As you have like the Dazzler as well when you look at something like the Nami, as well as just sitting next to that Lux, but can you even get your front line strong enough to be able to make sure that she's getting those casts off?
Yeah, he's got the EDM, but you know, all his items are on this TF, but you've got the 1-star Blitzcrank, you got the 1-star TF, and even though he has the headliner EDM like you're calling out, I'm not exactly sold on the fact that this Lux is doing that much for your board.
What do you pivot to and like when?
It's looking pretty bad for him. He's mostly just trying to hit Blitzcrank 2 and Twisted Fate 2, but he doesn't have any gold.
Yeah, I mean, he rolled down a ton, he didn't find the TF, and this would stabilize. Like, Disco's actually just such a great board to stabilize on level 8. It sometimes can cap out very, very high once you push to 9. Especially did around Ziggs. It's lost a little bit to cap potential, but even at 8, if you hit the TF2, you hit the Blitz 2, you'll stabilize and should be able to find your way to 9 if you can get there. And Strong just was not able to, and now in a lot of trouble, and you can see it on his face. I mean, this is a really tough spot.
That's a heartbreaker.
Does find this EDM chosen Zac. I mean, definitely feels much better, especially because you have the Ascension in on your board and you're ascending. You know, you gotta last that long, and EDM Lux is not really getting you there. So maybe this Zac is enough. It just feels like you kind of want the other traits, right? If you could get this TF online, if you can get this Disco Blitzcrank, excuse me, online, you just need to get there.
Yeah, finds Yorick, just gonna slam 3 tank items on Yorick in the front. Usually I don't like playing Yorick like this, but I think towards the end of stage 4, he still might be able to get 3 casts off and get the cool and create a lot of pressure.
Yeah, he's a Guardian too, so that does help out a little bit to be able to stabilize that front line, but at least Zac's doing a little bit there. You can see the bounty activating.
Just not enough damage. Even with Ascension, he just can't really punch through the rest of these boards. Because this front line's honestly pretty good. It's just the TF1 is not getting it done.
He's barely alive.
All right, final PvE round. Last chance for players to really kind of bounce back if they're in that low health total like Huntes and Pyrong. So I think they're kind of the players we're going to be looking at in 5-1 and 5-2 to see if they can actually stabilize or if they're just going to get lost in the crowd. Because you have to imagine Wet Jungler sitting level 8, 53 gold is probably going to be looking to go 9, potentially on 5-2. You know, we have to see exactly how much gold he pumps into XP right now, but it's definitely on the horizon.
This is kind of the board, though, that Huron kind of wishes he had in terms of what we're looking at on Gears. It's almost like such a hard juxtaposition to watch because you do have like the 2-star Twisted Fate, so that's really nice to be able to have in your back line. But let's take a look at what Huntes is doing here, because he's also kind of on last life.
Yeah, and he's on a 13 loss, and it is just not getting stabilized here for Hunt. It doesn't feel like that board has been fully put together. Either as Pyrong finds a Blitzcrank this time around, so
and
gives him the front line, and the TF2, and there's a Ziggs and Chop action, so that can help up the board.
There's some stuff going on in this board, actually. Wait a second.
I don't think he's going 8th, but there are some strong boards in the lobby he's got to watch out for.
Honestly, this looks like a very winnable matchup right now because TF does have access to kill the backline. He's not being targeted by the Karthus, and after a few casts, he actually may be able to just individually take care of the Karthus, the Senna, and the Aphelios all in the backline.
Yeah, the Blitz trying to hold on for some time here. We can finally get the cast out from Sona, and that's the big difference. It came at the same time as Ascension, so I think that combination, suddenly Pyrong's board just runs over everything else.
It's nice because that was also only a Karthus 1-star, so it's not even doing that much damage output, so you also have the healing coming through from like the disco ball, so it's really going to help make sure that you are manifesting that. But what is that?
There's that Kiana. Is picked up by St. Vicious. So we talked about Kiana a ton, right? Getting it early with the headliner being able to stack up the AD is going to be so good for Saint, and he's got some good supportive units around it with the Alawi to help it out.
We said the last couple games, Saint not actually finding exactly what he's looking for on level 9. It feels like he finally did it, right? He's there.
Yes, he got the rolls he was looking for in terms of those units, so hopefully it's going to pan out for him. But we've got to keep an eye on how Prong is doing, because he's still hanging in there, but how long?
Yeah, I mean, if he can hold on one more placement, it starts to feel a lot better for making it out of this heat. But a 7th, I don't think it's in his hands anymore, right? It feels like it might, maybe he's a tiebreaker or he's a point short. So finding all these wins is so important. He barely takes out gear. And he has so much heavy lifting from this Ascension right now because his front line is just doing everything to keep this game alive.
Talking about Prong's last chance at life. He's kind of rooting for Chow.Z to go out, currently sitting at 8 HP, still playing this Heartsteel headliner Ezreal. We talked about that. I wasn't sure exactly if he was going to play that for the rest of the game or if he was going to have enough money to make the pivot out. It is strong, but unfortunately the double trade of Heartsteel is not actually giving you enough here. Not sure if this might be Chow.Z's last fight.
Yeah, it looked like he was planning to be more stable on this and level later. Once again, Chow leveled off interval, which cost him effectively like 9 extra gold, but given that he's last life, he's kind of forced to do it.
Yeah, and he was fighting a ghost there, so he might be able to find the win in that spot, but Prong going up against that jungler, who is someone who has been, econing up, trying to go to 9. This should be an easy win, and we see the Ascension and Sona go at the same time once again. But this fight was actually incredibly close for Wet Jungler, who I don't think is spending gold. I mean, he's just going 9, so the fact that that's still close does not feel good for Prong.
Prong and Chow.Z hanging on by a thread. We'll have to see at 5-5 if either of them can do it. I did feel like Prong's front line felt a little bit weaker than it should have, so I imagine he's probably going to opt for some sort of front line here.
There is a Heartsteel emblem.
Is it bait or is it tech?
That one's definitely bait. Wait, Heartsteel.
Wait, hear me out. Wet Jungler takes the Heartsteel emblem, finds Heartsteel Chosen Kayn on 9.
Oh, okay.
And Prophet?
That is a slow simmer right there,
That's
sir.
true. And then he could get an item.
He'll cash out. He'll get 1 item.
All right. Wet Jungler does go 9. Not rolling either. Pretty comfortable here.
Yeah, he's got a lot of HP to spare, so he wants to potentially play to stage 7. So an entire stage left. He wants to maintain his econ instead of just going down to 0 and being basically 0 for the rest of the game.
Pirong once again, right? Now going up against Chaos. You see the true damage of Kali, so not having the backline access, that would be very scary for this Twisted Fate, but she is just not going down. There's no anti-heal coming out, right? So she's just regenning all of it, and she's alive for so long, but the Sona once again making all the difference, and Twisted Fate gonna pull out. This is the Ascension plus the Sona every time.
That was the clutchest Nami bubble I have ever seen in my entire life. This is the best 1 cost in the game.
He does have the anti-heal from the Blistering Strikes as well.
Oh, he does. You're right. Absolutely. That probably helps out a ton, making the difference on that Akali. Even though, to be fair, the Ascension procced and then the Twisted Fate just deleted the Akali from full health. So we'll see how much, but the Blistering Strikes is still a good note to pay attention. Prong not having that weakness on the board, actually having the ability to apply that anti-heal.
It's so impressive to watch Prong like in these last few rounds as well, because when you think about the state that his board was in, how many times he's had to pivot around to get the Yorick in with the right items. The Blitzcrank 2 now going to be in that position that actually has the tank items you would want on it, and you're still able to find these wins. Like, Prong almost feels like he's stabilized at this point as long as anyone else doesn't get stronger. Or maybe I just cursed him.
Yeah, I mean, mean,
the immediate curse.
Ran into Lil Kahuna, who has put together a pretty spicy board.
Well, he got really strong then.
He
so
did.
the point still
The
stands.
point still stands because
It does.
the truth is,
That's
look at the
true.
standings, right? Like exactly what Necro was talking about is what actually happened. Prong was able to make a strong enough board to leapfrog over Chow.Z and secure a 6. And if we're looking at 1st, 5th, 6th, it's actually a really decent spot for Prong to be in.
So I think that's the exact scoreline that Sox made it in earlier. I think he went 6th, 5th, and then he go out that first at the end
Oh,
and
wow.
clutch it up and make it in. So I think Perron kind of sitting in that bubble spot, you know, Sox made it in by 1 point. So we'll see in this lobby if that's enough, because a lot of players were live in this game to try and make that top 4.
Yeah.
Chaos at 9 points right now, so definitely one of those players that needs to secure a stronger spot, right? I believe his scores were 5-4 in the first 2 games, so looking to secure a top 4, probably, honestly, depending on the scoreline, top 2 or 3 to make it into the next round. Big roll down coming now.
Yeah, what Jungler offered the Yorick headliner, but he has the Alawi already, actually, so perfectly happy with that. Just looking for backline as he continues to go through this round. So much gold to work with, but he's found the Lucian too,
Ooh.
and you've got another headliner on the other side.
York 2-star.
Yorick 2 here does make it 3-item. Yorick 2 has to feel pretty good.
Yeah, Chaos opted to not sell the Akali, even though he had a ton of gold to roll, which I really like that decision. I think a lot of people would sell and look for a 5-cost headliner, but Akali is just a perfect unit to hold these items. And she's a lot better than a lot of the 5-costs.
Yeah, I mean, a true damage Akali has really impressed a lot of people this past. We've seen a lot of people playing around true damage, and once again we have a Twisted Fate fighting up against it. The Nami bubble!
did it again!
The Nami
She did keep getting away with
it! Oh, but it wasn't enough. The Yorick just got there.
The Yorick 2 really coming in clutch for
big
Chaos
difference.
this time. Yeah, huge upgrade for Chaos and able to take it over Gear. And you know what? Looking even at the scores.
Well-deserved Nami up.
Yeah.
she earned a promotion with
Yeah,
that
she
bubble.
sure
Yeah.
Gear and Chaos are sitting at 9 and 10 points respectively, and they're both the 2 players sitting at 4th and 5th position. So I'm very curious to see how that plays out and how their placements in the next fight affect the overall lobby.
Yeah, because look at Wet Jungler and Safe Vicious, so relatively safe with how many points they've scored, right? Lil Kahuna may be live with a first, but Chaos and Gear now it's like they need as many points as possible. This bubble is getting way too close.
And is it going to be the 6 disco that's able to do it here for Gear to really help ensure that it is going to be a top 4 for him? Oh, Kahuna. I guess it's kind of a jazz board we've got going on the other
too,
side.
yeah.
The Ziggs, though, yeah, the big part.
TF on the other side is getting another cast off. Does it do enough damage? It does!
Ghost
Gear
board
stays
did.
alive. Chaos also wins his round, maintains 21 AP, leapfrogs into 3rd position as Wet Jungler takes another loss.
Yeah, Safe Vicious, though, that's going to be a 5-win streak there for him right now, and that feels really nice, especially knowing that you've already kind of locked yourself mathematically into one of those spots. You can just kind of keep up that momentum, make sure you're still playing good TFT. But what's this?
Wow, hits Kiana, but where do you fit this?
Do you sell it? Yeah.
Yeah, it gets in there. You gotta sell. Gotta sell the pairs, get as strong as possible.
Yeah, I like selling the Sona. I think every single player has a Sona on their board, so it's unlikely to hit the Sona 2, St. Vicious with the Sona 2 already.
Great call out there. Yeah, all right. Up against, I believe this is Lil Kahuna's board, has the Lucian 2 who is firing, trying to break down that front line. The Alawi's still alive, bringing back 2 more of the tentacles. Front line's broken, but there's a lot of backline on the other side of the board, and Wet Jungler going down.
Ooh, looks
Gear?
like Gear's out too, yeah. So Gear's gonna end up in that 5th place. We've got Wet Jungler in 4th, and so our top 3 has been determined for this 3rd and final game. And St. Fish is not a terror. I don't know if there's much that's going to be stopping him right now.
I think Little Kahuna is maybe the one I'm looking at to do so, right?
That
Even though
two-star
Ziggs got nerfed, I mean, the Ziggs is still a very strong unit. And because Little Kahuna's put together such a good front line on top of it, I think he has time to ramp up, even though that was cut in half on this last patch. And you got to feel for Gear in this spot. He's very close to that bubble. And, you know, needing every point possible, finding a 5th, now he just has to sit there and wait and hope that that was enough, and it's going to be really, really tough once we get to see those scores and see who actually made it.
Chaos unable to cap his board any higher than he currently had. We'll see if this is enough. Does find a ghost board. That could be something. We'll see how it plays out.
Yeah, it does look like this is the ghost of St. Vicious's board.
Yeah, with a Sona 2.
Oh, that Kiana just deleted.
I was like, where'd it go?
Like, wait, where's the Akali? Where's the Akali? Oh, no, she gone.
All right.
She's left the building.
That St. Vicious looking unstoppable. He had the headliner Kiana at 5-2, which scales up in attack damage every single round. Probably looking at 100% bonus attack damage already.
Oh, definitely at this point, right? Full stage and a half that you've gotten to ramp up with this. This is why I've been saying I think Kiana headliner is the best in the game. Of course, there's circumstances that are around it, right? You can't just slot it in, sell your headliner in some board and grab it and be like, oh yes, now I have the best headliner in the game. She definitely has the highest cap though.
Yeah, if you could choose which one to hit early on stage 5, it's definitely Kiana.
Going to be heads up Lil Kahuna and St. Vicious going into the last fight.
Just wonder if Lil Kahuna's done enough at this point to be able to take over that board. You're really looking to try to two-star that Sona.
So it's a big positioning thing. Lil Kahuna actually has the tentacles. We're tanking up the Kiana, and that's actually the way you need to win this fight. She's been stuck on tentacles multiple times, but now Kane gets into the back line and just destroys everything. St. Vicious has just gotten way too strong, and he's gonna find a first place to cap this off.
All right,
let's go Saint.
Yeah, I was gonna say, so you must be pretty happy about that one.
Yeah, I've been talking a lot to Saint in the past week, prepping for this tournament. So I'm happy to see him do well.
I want to talk about the fact that, TFT is a game of variance, right? We've seen that time and time again. People say the best player doesn't always win. However, in this tournament, especially in the round 1, we've seen the top 4 seeds do exceedingly well and consistently find an edge on the competition.
Yeah, I would say Saint is arguably a tournament favorite with how he was performing on ladder coming into this, right? Because the patch was relatively small. We've seen some big changes from it, even though it was a small patch, but he's been very comfortable on the set. He's been one of the best players in North America on the set so far. So he comes in, pops off, he has a good performance. This is the expectation that we kind of set for Saint. And the expectation he set for himself. He said he was at a 9 in form, 9 out of 10. He feels there's no pressure on him as far as playing on LAN. He thinks he's gonna absolutely crush it, and well, he is.
That's so true. And this wasn't an easy lobby either. This was very much a hard-fought win through and through for all of our players that were able to make it through from this particular lobby alone. And I think that speaks a lot of volumes as well to the level of competition that we have here.
Even looking at how that last lobby was playing out, we saw Gear and Chaos both sitting at that 9 and 10 points, right? Chaos able to secure the 3rd, Gear securing the 5th, which probably means, I believe, that Chaos will leapfrog Gear in the standing. So let's see how it all plays out. All right.
Highlights for the game here as we are just kind of seeing some of the highlights of the overall, heat that we had. And I mean, a lot of impressive players in this entire, lobby, right? Because we talked about how close it was across the board. We talked about how Saint was live, Lil Kahuna might have been live, What Jungler was live, Chaos and Gear were live, Perong was live to make it in. So at this point, we still don't know who the 4 players are that made it in.
Yeah, it came down to the wire. A lot of these guys, like Perong, with 1 life, surviving, going on a win streak.
Yeah, we may actually come down to a tiebreaker scenario, right? Because we have these players like Perong and Gear and Chaos all taking up this bubble because St. Vicious and What Jungler did perform really well on the day.
Yeah, so I think it's probably gonna be a 5-player race. I think Kahuna needed the first. We'll have to see. The second might not have been enough for him.
Sitting at 5 points, I believe.
Yeah,
okay. So it feels a little low.
He probably needed that first to actually, make the difference. But that means Gear, Perong, and Chaos are probably all fighting for, 2 spots.
Yeah.
Out of those 3 players, and it seems like Gear is the least likely to make it now, based on falling in 5th there at the very end.
It's hard to juggle it all, but we did see St. Vicious take this game with this incredibly stacked legendary board, going all the way down to Hunted, who unfortunately was not able to secure a strong enough placement. We do see the point totals though, right? So we can figure that out. Ultimately though, we had these 2 legendary boards come down to the wire, and honestly, it really wasn't even close.
Absolutely not. Saint able to have a dominant finish at the end with that Kiana, and we're gonna have a chance to talk to Saint. Gonna send it over to Necra with an interview of our Heat winner.
Thank you so much, guys. I am here with the winner of that lobby. We've got St. Vicious. You're moving on to the top 256. How's it feel?
It's still kind of scary because, 3 games you can get out at any time. So, I don't want to celebrate it just yet,
Well, you have a lot of fans in the crowd that have been supporting you, and a lot of people on the desk that have pegged you as kind of one of the tournament favorites heading into today. So I know that must put a little bit of weight on your shoulders, but how have you kind of found navigating this patch that we just got?
I think like when the patch happened, a lot of people thought that we were gonna like play on level 8 and it was gonna be more aggressive. But I mean, I'm still just like fast nining every single game, and I think people are really bad at playing early and mid game. So I do a good job of punishing that, and then I just carry that into going 9.
We saw you cap out some really impressive legendary boards there. So how are you kind of finding the flexibility that you can have around playing so many legendaries?
I mean, it's like there's like a couple variations of like the level 9 board you can play. So it's like, I think that's the trouble a lot of people have is they just like locked in, like I have to have this and this and this unit, and that's like what I have to have to win. And I think that's like the real skill expression is like if you can get the 9, it's like sometimes Sona's the carry, sometimes Kane's the carry. Like there's so many different options you can do, and it's just all about like getting there.
Getting there and then navigating and making sure you are identifying the spot where you can do that. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. And then also just kind of a last little tidbit I'd like to get out of you is you're no stranger to playing in front of a live audience and just a professional level. So how are you kind of finding it here, playing TFT in front of everybody?
I don't really get nerves, but in the first game, I accidentally sold my Alawi pair, and I probably would have won the game if I didn't do that. So I'm still making mistakes sometimes. It's been a while, but I don't know. I don't really get that nervous.
Well, it's great to see that you've got nerves of steel, and I know you're going to be gunning towards the next few games here. So just want to make sure you are able to go get some rest, and good luck with the rest of your games.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
We're going to take a short break now. When we come back, we will be getting ready for the top 250. So don't go anywhere.
disappear. I'm your eraser. Aim the cut just like a razor. Murked up in this world, my place. I got all the boys on me. I got all the lines on me.
So a lot of players are kind of worried because this tournament is after a patch happened like a couple days ago. So a lot of people were like, oh, I don't have enough time to practice, and also the PvE had some issues and stuff. But I actually think when a tournament is on a patch this fresh, you could innovate a lot because you'll be able to find a strategy that other people haven't found yet, and they're not aware of it, and you'll be able to replicate it every game. You'll actually have more of an edge compared to a patch that's already been out for 3 weeks where people are just like minimizing like the small details because everyone already knows the meta. So someone might come out with like a hidden strat and just dominate every game.
Hello, everybody. We just wrapped up our competition for our first rounds of the day, which means we've already cut the field in half, and we're looking forward to the top 256. But we do have to take some time in order to get everybody ready to go. So we're just going to reflect on this halfway point. What have you guys enjoyed so far about today's competition?
I mean, it's just been like the craziness of these games and the meta changing around, right? Because as we walk around, we get the energy of everybody cheering people on, and we see like, you know, the level 8 lobbies, we see the 3-cost rerollers, we see the Fast 9s. And then on stage, I think it's been a lot of Fast 9, but the fact is, all of these are gonna collide at some point, and we're gonna see what really rises to the top.
Something I've seen on the day that is so fascinating is that we've seen the top seeds perform exceedingly well, right? People talk about the variance in TFT. They talk about finding consistency in your edge. It's not always that easy. However, in the first game, the first set of the day, we saw the top 4 seeds go top 4, top 4, top 5. The players who are good at TFT do well at TFT.
Wow, what a surprise.
Such a concept. But I mean, I think what's really great is that we have so many different skill levels of players that are represented at this event as well. Not only do we also, outside of our challenger folks, okay, we still have like masters, grandmasters. We also end up having a lot of influencers that are here that are very, very good at other games. I mean, I know we can kind of look at, say, Vicious and go, yeah, okay, like is a professional in some other titles as well, but still has that TFT experience. But what about some of the other folks that we've seen in from other games?
Well, Wolfie's the big one that sticks out to me. Yes, he has a TFT background. He grinded a bunch. He came in and he cast some events as well. But I would not consider him like a TFT player in the traditional sense. So the fact that he made it out of his heat was incredibly impressive to me for him to come in, practice a bunch, and make it out. And you said it in the interview, it's the world champ diff.
And one of the other things to consider, though, is that we may not even know who the next breakout player is, who the next personality is, right? I know, hey, Asa, you come from the poker background. There is this element of any given Sunday, people can perform.
Yeah, for sure.
I heard there's something cool happening on Hafu's board here, so let's check out what's going on in this play.
All right, we see a pretty big transition out the gates. Going towards country, full selling into it. Yeah, I mean, this looks like a commit to country, good items to play around the Samira. Oh, maybe we're gonna see a full golden board.
Oh,
maybe that's
immediately finds a Samira.
Yeah, there you go.
Headliner, 6 Samiras right off the bat, and did not even slam the items on the initial one, and then eventually finds that 3-star Samira, and looks like she does go out in fifth.
Okay, I feel like I got baited.
I feel that way too.
Someone said Samira, or Hafu highlight, she went out in fifth. But what happened on the rest of this board, right? We see a reroll Misfortune looking like it might have found the win at level 10. No, it did not. Instead, it goes down to the level 9 board. Or no, there was the level 9 reroll Misfortune. So the rerolls actually worked out between the two. You talked about this in our last game. It actually links up well. We see a Hafu rerolling for country, and then a Misfortune reroll actually being able to hit probably early enough and then cap out.
Yeah, it makes it a lot easier to hit if someone else is rerolling because there's 13 3-costs, so if someone else is taking 9 Samiras or like 9 Urgots out of the pool and you're looking for Misfortune, it makes it a lot easier to hit.
So is it the strategy then where you let everybody else go to level 9 and then like you sit there and you're like, well, what about these 4 costs that I could have? Because I know all of you are trying to hunt for legendaries right now. Don't listen to me.
It's a scary thing to do. I don't know. The idea of sitting there while everyone's going to 9, sometimes you take a couple of hits that are a little too big, right?
Then all the 5 costs are gone too, so you lose the option. You can't even go to 9.
See?
But rerolling for 4 costs is something maybe people could do. The bag sizes made it rough because realistically, hitting the headliner makes it so you can get the copies easier. You can go for that 3-star 4 cost, but the bag size reduction means the whole lobby can see that starting to happen and be like, okay, I'll hold like 2 of them. I'll hold 1 of them, and then it's done. You can't actually hit.
Well, and even circling back to what Ace was talking about before, right? 3 costs are strongest when everyone's taking the 3 costs because they're easier to hit. If nobody's playing 4 costs, your odds of 3-starring your 4 costs do dramatically go down. So all of a sudden it becomes a much more difficult line to hit or a difficult out to find.
I think with the 4 costs, a lot of times you're looking for a couple ones that pair particularly well together, such as Viego with Karthus both being pentakill, or Akali and Ahri both being KDA potentially. So a lot of times, since you're looking for a particular one, if it's not contested, it makes it a lot easier to hit. It gives you a huge advantage. And you don't need to 3-star a
exactly.
Ahri Akali.
Yeah, that's true. You just make the board. If you get all of them, it's going to be strong enough.
But if you do 3-star that,
then you end up on the highlight.
Yeah, actually, yeah. That's a very good
Hopefully
point.
not going bot 4 on the highlight.
Oh, gosh, yeah. We'll have to check in and see whether we get any of those upcoming. But we did get a chance to check in with some of our players and fans that are also here at the TFT Vegas Open. So let's hear what they had to say.
Welcome everybody to the TFT Vegas Open. If you're just joining us now, let me break down for you how this tournament works. 512 players are competing in the field. At the end of day 1, we will whittle that field down to 128 players. We will move on to day 2. Day 2 will have 8 games on the day where we will go from 128 players down to our final 8 lobby, all culminating in finals day, where the 8 players will compete to determine who will be the champion of the TFT Vegas Open. What's going on, everybody? I'm here with Ujelly, who just took first in her previous game. Ujelly, can you tell me a little bit about how the game went?
The game somehow went really well. I think I'm a dirty high roller and Mordog blessed me. That's exactly how it went.
All right, talk to me a little bit about the environment here, right? We're in Vegas, we're on land. We said it before, it's kind of electric in here. What's your interpretation of everything that's going on?
It's really cool. This is my first in-person TFT tournament. I'm a League player, but this is really cool. There's so many people, and there's people from all over the world, and I'm meeting a lot of people, and it's really fun. And thank you to the TFTers for inviting me.
All right. Well, congratulations on your win. Good luck for the rest of the tournament, and we'll send it back to you.
And we're here with Here We Go, who of course had a long travel. And I just want to know, how does it feel to play at a LAN as big as this one?
就是现在他在采访你，然后他想说，你第一次参加这种比较盛大的，然后线下大家在一起的比赛，你的感想是什么样子的？
第一次参加这么多人的比赛，然后跟选手一起打的话，感觉让我很兴奋，然后这边的选手也很厉害。
Yeah, he said that he's so excited about taking part in the first LAN event located in Vegas, and he also felt that the players and all the participants are really good at playing TFT, so he enjoyed it.
Thank you so much.
I'm here with Team Liquid's Alan ZQ, or Pancho Alancio as he's known in Poland. First place in game 1, second place in this game 2. Where's your confidence levels at for this first round?
I'm very confident, had a proper preparation, and feel very confident in the patch, and as the results show.
You're almost through to round 2. You have to have a decent result in this game 3. Is there any game plan you have in mind to try and find consistent results?
Just hit.
Just hit, always a good game plan in TFT. Thank you so much, Alan. Best of luck.
I'm here with Tamura, who I think everybody should know anyhow. But Tamura, you've just recently joined Team Juno, which is an up-and-coming org from OC and SEA. Tell me about that.
Yeah, so Team Juno is basically just bringing the best of the best from OS and SEA. And Juno's just such a lovable guy, and he loves us all so much. He's like, he always called us his little brothers, and so he basically just wanted to fly out everyone and get everyone to compete at Vegas, and that's what we've come here to do and win.
You've come here to win, which I personally is a bold statement, but so far you've been doing good.
Yeah, the games have been going well. I had a really good opener, so currently gone first and then fourth, so just need to secure another decent placement in the next game, and then should be moving on to the next round, which I'm looking forward to doing so.
Now, Tamura, you've been at Worlds twice. What's more stressful, Worlds or the TFVO?
Honestly, it's a completely different environment. It's different stressful. I wouldn't say it's more or less. It's just more that you're on a different setup. There's so much noise, and you're not in your comfort zone. That being said, though, it's a little bit less pressure in the early games. I can imagine, though, as soon as you get onto the big stage or you play some of those more important games, then yeah, it's going to be a lot more stressful in person.
All right, thank you so much.
I love when we get a chance to have some of these reactions right after these players have played a great game. Even when they've not played a great game, they still are able to get that raw emotion, whether it's through something like that interview or player cam.
I mean, that's the magic of LAN, right? We have never really gotten to experience this on such a huge scale, and there's something so magical about being able to come together and, like you're saying, see the reactions on camera, seeing the reactions in person, hearing the sounds of the high roller or the low roller, right? There's something about it that you just never get to experience before.
Yeah, and it was like being able to see the big pop-offs that happen all around, and then getting to see, you know, it's funny, we talk about Wolfie, the world champ diff, and then we get Alan ZQ on the interview. He's the Legends of Runeterra world champion. He went first, second. He's definitely making out. We definitely have a world champ diff going around with all these different players.
Maybe just a little bit, but it has been really cool to see everybody just also enjoying the event. I think that's something that is very much felt through and through this venue.
Yeah, it's been so fun. I feel like when I've been playing tournaments online, I am really disappointed if I go out early, but here, I'm not even going to be too upset because I'll just be in Vegas meeting people that I've known online for many years and just hanging out. So
yeah, I mean, we said at the top of the show that this really is a celebration of the community. We've been working towards this for the last 3.5 years, building up a scene, making friends, making memories, all culminating into one moment, the Vegas Open, and we're finally here. It's so exciting.
It's been awesome, and the crowd's been really great too. You guys have been amazing. Thank you so much for not only cheering us on, but our players that are taking this main stage. It's been amazing, and we still have more action ahead of us. So we are going to take a short break. Asa, thank you so much for joining us for this game. And
thank you for having me.
We will see you all for Top 256.